Chapter 369. Longao and Long Chong did not dare to relax in the slightest. As Longao killed the skeletons, he carefully observed the surrounding environment. He wanted to see where these skeletons came from. So that's how it is. After observing for a while, Longao finally discovered that these skeletons emerged from the ground. In other words, there was a huge tomb under the cave, and endless skeletons would emerge. Although he knew where the skeletons came from, it was very troublesome to completely destroy them. Fortunately, the skeleton's strength and attack power were not very strong. With one man and one dragon working together, they could easily kill them in a short time. A dragon's roar sounded out as waves of bloody energy attacked the surrounding corpses. As the boundless blood sea painting devoured the corpses, Long Chong's powerful dragon aura also heavily suppressed the corpses, making it difficult for them to move. Xiao Chong, go and take a look. Longao and Long Chong were telepathically connected. Of course, Longao knew what Longao meant. Nodding, Long Chong's huge body came in front of the wall in the blink of an eye. According to Longao's instructions, Long Chong began to violently attack the wall, but in the end, it was to no avail. Underground. In the end, there was no other way. Longao jumped onto Long Chong's body. Although these skeletons were strong, they could not fly. Because of this, Longao was looking forward to the Celestial Master Realm even more. As everyone knew, once one's cultivation broke through to the Celestial Master Realm, one would be able to fly. At that time, his strength would be doubled. This was the biggest difference between an earthly venerable and a celestial venerable. There was no other way. Longao knew that he could not delay any longer because the skeletons were a bottomless pit. Then, the man and dragon began to work together. After devouring the skeletons, they began to attack the ground fiercely. Boom, boom, boom. At this time, the ground seemed to be unable to withstand the fierce impact of the man and dragon and collapsed. Sure enough, Longao was overjoyed in his heart. Without the slightest hesitation, Longao and Long Chong directly rushed down. A hole within a hole. It turned out that there was another huge cave beneath the cave. The two caves were almost identical, and even the size was the same. The entire cave was filled with corpses and skeletons. Each and every one of them had a dark look in their eyes as they stared at Longao and Long Chong. Longao didn't care about these skeletons because he had Long Chong's help. As long as he didn't fall to the ground, the skeletons couldn't do anything to him. Ever since he stepped into the cave, Longao's eyes had never left the front. It turned out that there was a huge coffin in front of him. It was red in color, and the four sides were carved with balls of flames. Without even getting close, Longao could feel how terrifying this coffin was. The coffin of the burning heaven emperor? There was almost no need to guess. Longao already knew that the coffin in front of him was the coffin of the burning heaven emperor. It was truly a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. If it wasn't for the attack of the skeletons, Longao wouldn't have thought of going underground. It was even more impossible for him to smash open the ground and enter the hole within the hole. It seemed that everything was arranged by fate. If it's yours, then it's yours. If it's not yours, then it's nonsense. Master, don't move. Just as Longao was about to open the coffin to see if it was the burning heaven emperor inside, Long Fu's urgent voice sounded, which directly scared Longao. Long Fu, what's going on? Master, this isn't the coffin of the burning heaven emperor. I really didn't expect that there would be a Qilin corpse hidden here. Qilin corpse? What did this mean? Wasn't this the tomb of the burning heaven emperor? Why did it suddenly become a Qilin coffin? Longao was completely confused, but in the end, he still chose to believe in Long Fu. Long Fu, what's going on? Longao was a little impatient to know. Master, I don't know what's going on, but it's indeed not the burning heaven emperor inside the coffin, but the Qilin corpse. Moreover, the Qilin soul hasn't completely disappeared, so it's sealed by this coffin. If you rashly open it, the consequences will be unimaginable. After being shocked, Longao was also a little scared. He asked, Long Fu, what's the strength of this Qilin? Titled Great Emperor. Another titled Great Emperor. At this moment, Longao naturally knew what a titled Great Emperor meant. Who sealed the Qilin Emperor? Could it be the Burning Heaven Emperor? One had to know that the Qilin clan was one of the strongest clans in the world, not to mention the Qilin Emperor. If one wanted to seal the Qilin Emperor, it would have to be another titled Great Emperor. The Nine Provinces mystic realm itself was the tomb of the Burning Heaven Emperor. If that was the case, then the one who sealed the Qilin Emperor was undoubtedly the Burning Heaven Emperor. Long Fu, what should I do now? Master, the Qilin Emperor's soul is very helpful to you. I have full confidence that as long as you can obtain the Qilin Emperor's soul and borrow the world's spirit energy here, not to mention breaking through to the heavenly venerable realm, even reaching the great venerable realm wouldn't be a problem. Longao couldn't resist such a temptation. Great venerable realm. This time, Longao had been working hard in the Nine Provinces mystic realm, wanting to break through to the heavenly venerable realm. Moreover, Long Fu had already said that with the world's spirit energy here, it shouldn't be difficult to break through to the heavenly venerable realm within a month. But now, with such temptation, Longao believed that he could not resist it at all. Long Fu, how can I obtain the Qilin Emperor's soul? Long Fu certainly knew that his master was in a hurry, so he straightforwardly said, by borrowing the power of the seal, using the power of tribulation thunder and the world's aura to suppress him. As long as he enters my dragon seal space, I will have a way to control him. It sounded simple, but it was actually incomparably difficult. But since things had already come to this point, Longao certainly wouldn't shrink back. He took a deep breath and followed Long Fu's method. Longao stepped on the Longchong and arrived at the coffin. He could clearly feel a powerful soul attack coming from the coffin. What a terrifying sealing power. Longao didn't dare to hesitate. He immediately mobilized all the strength in his body, releasing the world's aura and the power of tribulation thunder. He silently entered the coffin. At this time, he suddenly heard a roar coming from the coffin and jumped in fright. How terrifying. If it wasn't for the sealing power, it's really hard to imagine what would happen. The Qilin Emperor was tightly sealed in the coffin. Even if he was extremely angry, he could only obey obediently. Even his soul attack couldn't come out. It was conceivable that it was because of this that Longao was fearless. He was prepared to continue attacking the Qilin Emperor and seize the Qilin Emperor's soul in one fell swoop. Boy, you're really bold. You even dare to attack the Qilin Emperor. Chapter 370. Who is it? Hearing the voice that suddenly came out, Longao was immediately startled. He didn't continue to attack the Qilin Great Emperor's coffin and looked around vigilantly. Longao discovered that the army of skeletons had all disappeared, leaving behind a green oily light sitting in the center. It seemed to be a person. Who are you? You've entered my territory, yet you're asking me who I am. Interesting. Hearing this, Longao was shocked. He wasn't an idiot. Of course he could tell. He blurted out, "You're the Burning Heaven Emperor?" The dim light laughed as if he was very happy. He nodded and said, "That's right. I'm the Burning Heaven Emperor. You've really surprised me. You're actually able to come here, and you're actually a dragon martial artist. Not bad, not bad." After knowing the identity of the other party, Longao calmed down instead. He called Longchong back into the dragon seal space, walked up to the dim light, and said, "Senior, this time I entered the Nine Provinces' secret realm in order to make a breakthrough. I accidentally found this place. If I have offended you in any way, please forgive me." Waving his hand, the Burning Heaven Emperor smiled and said, "Since you're able to come here, it means that we're fated. My time is almost up, and my soul won't be able to exist for long. So, I have something to ask of you." Longao didn't agree because he still didn't know what the Burning Heaven Emperor wanted him to do. The Burning Heaven Emperor naturally knew what the other party meant, but he didn't expose it. This matter is very simple. Back then, when I sealed the Qilin Great Emperor, I used my blood essence. It's almost impossible to pass it on to you. However, I have a martial skill. Do you want to learn it? F***CK. So it was this matter. Longao cursed in his heart. Nodding his head, Longao didn't fake it and said, "Of course I want to learn it." Longao wasn't an idiot. As a titled Great Emperor, The Burning Heaven Emperor's martial skills were definitely not to be underestimated. If he didn't want to obtain it, then he would be lying. Longao believed that he wasn't someone who didn't dare to admit it. Nodding his head in praise, the Burning Heaven Emperor said, "This martial skill is called the Burning Heaven Array Technique. It is a secret array technique book that I obtained back then. Moreover, after so many years of research, I have already written my experiences into it." Array Master? Looking at the Burning Heaven Emperor in front of him, Longao never thought that the Burning Heaven Emperor would actually be an Array Master. The Formation Emperor. Longao certainly had a good understanding of Array Masters. Back then, his sect had relied on the Heaven and Earth Array formation to kill a great venerable. If he could become an Array Master, wouldn't that be like adding wings to a tiger? Just thinking about it made him excited, but Longao didn't act like a wolf or a tiger. Kid, you should know what an Array Master represents. Although my strength isn't the strongest in this world, I can clearly tell you that I am the strongest Array Master in this world. Senior, you want to pass down the Array technique to me? That's right. Senior, to be honest, I also want to become an Array Master. However, according to what I said, it is incomparably difficult to become an Array Master. The talent required is even above that of a martial artist. As for whether I can become an Array Master, I don't seem to know yet, right? This kind of temptation was irresistible, but Longao wasn't willing to give up. Kid, you don't have to worry about this. Others might not be able to do it, but it won't be difficult for me. Wait a moment, I will pass down the array technique origin that I have been studying for so many years to you. As long as you slowly refine it and your talent isn't too low, I believe that you can definitely become an Array Master. As for how far you can go, that will depend on your own luck. Array techniques could also be passed down? This was the first time Longao heard of this. No matter what, being able to become an Array Master was an incomparably happy thing. Longao could completely imagine that if he could become a powerful Array Master, not to mention other things, at least his family and sect would be able to arrange a few more array techniques. At that time, he would be able to breathe a sigh of relief and wouldn't have to worry about his family and sect every day. Kid, since you have received my inheritance, it is equivalent to being my disciple. Are you willing? Nodding his head, Longao didn't have the slightest hesitation. He knelt down and kowtowed, calling him master. Longao wasn't a fool. Of course, he knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Why would someone pass down the array technique to you for no reason? Therefore, Longao wasn't the slightest bit surprised. I still don't know your name. Longao, you are a disciple of a Long family. If I'm not wrong, you should be a disciple of a third-class family or above, right? Shaking his head, Longao said helplessly, my family was only a ninth-class family in the beginning. Now, it has advanced to a sixth-class family. Of course, Longao knew what his master meant. This was because everyone knew that the Long family had a written rule. As long as one was at the third class or above, one could enter the Dragon Valley to look for a dragon partner and become a dragon warrior. It was precisely because of this that Fantion was very surprised. He nodded and praised, very good. Your talent is the best I have ever seen. Since you have already acknowledged me as your master, you must help me with something. Longao's heart sank. However, since things had already come to this point, he could only nod and agree, please speak, master. Back then, I was blind and took in a traitor, causing my physical body to be destroyed. Therefore, you must help me clean up the family. Traitor? Clean up the family? Longao, this traitor's name is Yi Wushuang. He has obtained 70% of my array technique essence. However, with your talent, as long as you obtain my array technique inheritance, your array technique level will definitely surpass him in 10 years or even a few years. By then, you must help me clean up the family. So that's how it was. Longao also hated traitors who deceived their master the most. Moreover, he had already acknowledged Fantion as his master. This matter was duty-bound. He nodded and said, don't worry, master. I will definitely help you clean up the family. You must be careful. This traitor is very cunning. If nothing goes wrong, he should be a titled Great Emperor now. Your cultivation is still very low. If I didn't use my blood essence back then and pass my inheritance to you, I believe that you would be able to fight against him in at most 3 years. Sigh. Longao's heart also thumped. Titled great emperors were not cabbages that could be eaten as and when they wanted to. Longao knew that with his current strength, it was too difficult to reach the Great Emperor realm, let alone the titled Great Emperor realm. Even if he obtained the inheritance, he might not be able to break through the titled Great Emperor realm in 3 years. However, Longao had already decided that he must avenge his master. He must kill Yi Wushuang and clean up the family. He was determined to succeed. However, you have the array technique. As long as your array technique is stronger than his, you can borrow the power of the array technique to clean up the family. Master will be even happier. Chapter 371. Formation. Longao knew that he had to clean up the sect. In the following period of time, Longao wholeheartedly accepted the inheritance. In other words, Fentian had passed down all of his comprehension of the Tao of formation to Longao. After a full 10 days, Longao barely managed to complete the inheritance. Longao, although you have already obtained my inheritance, you still have to rely on yourself in the future. Remember, knowing about formations requires comprehension. Otherwise, no matter how hard you work, it will be in vain. According to your current level of formations, it shouldn't be a problem for you to set up ordinary formations. Nodding, Longao said, Master, don't worry. I definitely won't let you down. Longao, back then, I was severely injured by that bastard and unintentionally sealed the Qilin Emperor. In the end, I relied on the Qilin Emperor to live for so long. Now that I'm about to disappear, I know that it's very simple for you to obtain the Qilin Emperor's soul. With my power, you can easily do it. Although he was overjoyed, Longao was a little sad. No matter what, his master was about to disappear, but as his disciple, he was powerless. Don't be sad. As long as you can help me clean up the sect, I will be very happy. Fun Tian's soul began to slowly disappear. Longao put away his sadness. As the saying goes, the dead cannot be resurrected. Right now, there was only one thing he could do, and that was to help his master clean up the sect. At this moment, the Qilin Emperor's coffin suddenly opened and a soul floated out. Longao knew very well that if it wasn't for his master's help, it wouldn't be easy for him to subdue the Qilin Emperor's soul. He sent the Qilin Emperor's soul into the Dragon Seal space. Long Fu, how long will it take to refine the Qilin Emperor's soul? Longao was looking forward to it. After all, according to Long Fu, as long as he could absorb the Qilin Emperor's soul, his cultivation would most likely break through to the Great Sovereign Realm. The Void Sovereign was a supreme existence that was above the Void Sovereign. However, Longao wasn't someone who bit off more than he could chew. He knew that if he wanted to break through to the Great Sovereign Realm, he had to break through to the Heavenly Sovereign Realm. There were only 15 days left, so he had to break through as soon as possible. Venerable Void was at the pinnacle of the realm. Master, it'll take about 1 to 3 months. If the 3 of you absorb all of it, I'm sure you'll all be able to break through to the Great Exalted Realm. Moreover, there'll be a portion of spirit energy left behind that your family can also improve. In fact, Longao had already guessed it. No matter what, the Qilin Great Emperor was a titled Great Emperor. His strength was there for all to see. Without leaving the tomb space, Longao immediately sat down cross-legged and began to absorb the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual energy, preparing to break through to the Empyrean realm. Longao had already reached the peak of the void earthly venerate realm. He was only 1 step away from breaking through to the void heavenly venerate realm. He sat quietly on the ground. According to Longao's normal absorption speed, it would take him a month to break through to the Empyrean realm. But with Long Fu's help, this time was cut down by half, from a month to 15 days. The earthly venerate golden elixir in his body suddenly expanded to 10 times its original size. Then, the spirit energy began to disperse, flowing through every part of his body. Longao stood up, his face full of surprise. The 9 States Mystery Land would be closed tomorrow. According to his master, the 9 States Mystery Land would never be opened again. Therefore, no matter what happened, he would have to leave tomorrow. If he could not break through, he would have to wait for another 1 to 3 months. At the very least, he would have to wait until Long Fu refined Big Brother Qian's soul. However, at the last moment, his cultivation level successfully broke through to the Empyrean realm. Although he was only a beginner Empyrean, there was a huge gap between him and the peak of the earthly Venerate realm. Longao was pleasantly surprised. His trip to the 9 States Mystery Land this time was not in vain. After leaving the tomb space, Longao directly flew into the void. He felt that it was really amazing. The heavenly Venerate golden elixir in his body could support a warrior to fly for a short period of time. Longao calculated that with his current strength, he would have no problem flying for an hour. Longao was full of confidence. If he met a heavenly Venerate warrior now, even if it was a mid-level or high-level heavenly Venerate, he would be able to kill them within 5 moves. Unless he met a great Venerate warrior. Longao calculated the time and prepared to leave the 9 States Mystery Land. After all, the 9 States Mystery Land would be closed tomorrow. Once he could not leave, it meant that he would never be able to leave the 9 States Mystery Land. Outside the 9 States Mystery Land, Duanhe rushed over because he had received news that his son had entered the 9 States Mystery Land a month ago. If it was in the past, Duanhe would not have the slightest doubt. But now, the situation was completely different. After all, his son had been captured by Longao a month ago, and there was no news of him. Since that was the case, how could his son enter the 9 States Mystery Land? He did not believe that Longao would be so kind as to let his son go so easily. Because of this, Duanhe immediately rushed to the 9 States Mystery Land to see what had happened. Duanhe stared at the valley in front of him. At this time, a figure quickly flew over. Before Duanhe could react, a black figure had already shot over. Duanhe, who was about to attack, was shocked when he saw the appearance of the black figure. He caught the figure with both hands and flew into a rage. He almost roared, "Longao, I will definitely tear you into pieces." Longao had just left the 9 States Mystery Land when he noticed Duanhe, who was blocking the way outside. Although his cultivation had broken through to the heavenly Venerate realm, Longao knew that he was no match for Duanhe because Duanhe was a World Emperor warrior. It was precisely because of this that Longao directly threw Duan Tianfeng's corpse out. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Longao directly fled into the distance, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. Duan Tianfeng was originally a corpse slave. Looking at his son who had been dead for a long time, Duanhe's body began to tremble violently. Although Duanhe had many sons, he doted on his youngest son the most. Now that he had been killed by Longao, how could Duanhe accept this? People came out of the 9 States Mystery Land one after another. When they saw Duanhe holding Duan Tianfeng and kneeling on the ground, they did not know what had happened and no one dared to ask. No matter what, Duanhe's identity and strength were there for all to see. Outside the 9 States Mystery Land, Duanhe's body was filled with killing intent, enveloping the surrounding space. He gently picked up the corpse on the ground and said in an extremely cold voice, "Tianfeng, Father will definitely avenge you. Longao, Long family, all of them will die. None of them will be left alive. None of them will be left alive." Duanhe seemed to have aged a lot in an instant. He carried the corpse and slowly left the 9 States Mystery Land, step by step. Just like this, Duanhe carried his son's corpse and gradually left. P.S. After 10 chapters, I will immediately start writing today's chapter. I am so busy every day that I can't rest for a moment. Chapter 372. When Duanhe returned to the Imperial City, he immediately announced to the world that the Imperial City and the Dragon Sect would not rest until one of them was dead. The news of Longao killing Duan Tianfeng instantly spread throughout the 9 States continent. Countless people applauded Longao's actions, but they didn't dare to show it. Everyone knew that Duan Tianfeng was Duanhe's favorite son. He could get anything he wanted. Now that he was killed by Longao, how could Duanhe let it go? Everyone broke out in cold sweat for Longao. They didn't know how the Dragon Sect would resist the Imperial City. No matter what, the Imperial City was one of the 4 major forces of the 9 States Spirit Realm. In the Dragon Sect, Longao returned smoothly. Everyone was excited. However, when the dragon sect received the news from the imperial city, their faces were filled with helplessness and worry. The dragon sect had just been established. Its strength and foundation couldn't compete with the imperial city. Once the war started, the dragon sect would definitely be destroyed by the imperial city. Everyone in the dragon sect couldn't believe that their master had really killed Duan Tianfeng. According to the situation, it was indeed inappropriate. However, no one dared to say anything. In the dragon sect's main hall, Longao casually glanced around and understood everyone's thoughts. He smiled and said, "It's just the imperial city. We just have to deal with whatever comes our way. There's no need to worry." Hearing the master's words, everyone smiled bitterly. Dugabai said bitterly, "Master, forgive me for being blunt. The imperial city's strength is there. If we choose to fight them head-on, the result can be imagined. So, please reconsider, Master." How could Longao not know about Big Brother Dugu's worries? The imperial city. After reciting the two words imperial city in his heart, Longao suddenly said, "From now on, Big Brother Dugu, you must first choose a group of disciples with the best talent to form the dragon sect's core disciples." "Master, what's the matter?" Everyone was curious. They didn't know what the master wanted to do. At this time, they should be thinking of a way to deal with the imperial city. However, the master wanted to choose the core disciples. "I want to build up the strength of the sect in a short period of time." Everyone seemed to want to say something, but Longao waved his hand and said, "I'll leave this matter to you. 3 days later, I want to see the core disciples. Don't disturb me for 3 days." Seeing the master get up and leave, everyone felt depressed. "Brother Dugu, what's wrong with Master? They don't seem to fear the imperial city at all." "I don't know. We'll just do whatever Master says." Helplessly shrugging his shoulders, Dugu Bai stood up and left with a smile. Longao Peak, Back Mountain Forbidden Area. "Big Brother Qilin, how is your injury recovering?" The fire Qilin was leisurely lying on a huge rock, basking in the sun. It squinted its eyes, coughed twice, and said, "Not bad. After a few more months, I should be able to fully recover." "That's right, kid. I won't miss our 3-year agreement. After 3 years, I will leave." Without waiting for Longao to speak, the fire Qilin continued, "Wait until my injury fully recovers and the Long family is safe. You can rest assured." Longao nodded. If it was before, he wouldn't have been confident. After all, he didn't know what realm the fire Qilin was in. But now, Longao clearly knew that the fire Qilin was a titled Great Emperor Spirit Beast, the same level as his master. However, Longao knew very well that even 100 fire Qilins might not be a match for his master. This was the terror of a formation master. Especially in a group battle, a formation master was even more powerful. "Kid, you seem to already know my realm?" Seeing Longao nod his head, the fire Qilin was very surprised. It asked, "Tell me, how did you know?" "I accidentally found out that you're a titled Great Emperor." "That's right. I'm indeed a titled Great Emperor. The evil spirit that caused trouble for you was also a titled Great Emperor. However, he was more powerful than me. After all, he had already condensed the aura of heaven and earth. I really can't understand how a bunch of perverts like you can have the aura of heaven and earth without reaching Nirvana rebirth." Nirvana rebirth? Could it be that the Nirvana rebirth mentioned by the fire Qilin was an existence that was above the Great Emperor realm? Before Longao could ask, the fire Qilin had already said, "Kid, since you already know about the Great Emperor realm, you'd better work hard on your cultivation. Your martial arts cultivation is still very far away. Break through to the illusionary divine realm first." Longao nodded his head. He knew what the fire Qilin meant. Take it step by step and fight steadily. The biggest taboo of martial arts cultivation was to spoil things through excessive enthusiasm. "Big Brother Qilin, I'm really curious. With your current strength, who could actually injure you so severely?" Longao was very curious about this point. He knew very well that with the fire Qilin's strength, unless it was a great emperor like his master, it would be very difficult for anyone to be a match for the fire Qilin. No matter what, the Qilin race was the strongest existence in the world. They were naturally much stronger than human martial artists. Moreover, the Fire Qilin was a titled Great Emperor. If that was the case, it could be said that the martial artist who defeated the Fire Qilin was a supreme existence that was above the Great Emperor realm. Kid, with your current strength, you're not qualified to know these things. I'll say the same thing again. If you want to go out and see the wider world, you'd better break through to the Great Emperor realm first. When that time comes, I'll tell you many things that you didn't know before. Since the Fire Qilin did not want to say more, Longao did not ask further and nodded his head. Just as Longao was about to leave, the Fire Qilin suddenly said, "Kid, the Imperial City's strength is still not bad. If you can defeat the 4 overlords and dominate the Sky region, you'll have the qualifications to conquer the mainland. Otherwise, you'll always be a small fry." What did this mean? Longao eventually left. However, he could not understand the Fire Qilin's words. However, as the Fire Qilin had said, no matter what, strength was everything. His current strength was indeed not enough. He had just touched the threshold of martial arts. Not to mention the Void World King and the Void World Emperor, there were still the 8th stage of the Illusionary Divine Realm and the 10th stage of the Great Emperor Realm. There were also the titled Great Emperors. Strength. What he needed the most now was strength. After successfully breaking through to the elementary stage of the Empyrean realm, Longao only wanted Long Fu to refine the Qilin's soul. Then, his cultivation would directly break through to the Great Emperor realm. At that time, he would be able to advance towards the World King realm and reach the peak of the Void realm. As for the matter of the Qilin's soul, Longao did not dare to tell the Fire Qilin. What a joke. If the Fire Qilin knew that you wanted to refine the soul of the Qilin race, the consequences would be unimaginable. Because of this, Longao immediately went into seclusion to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. At this time, the Imperial City had begun to move. Chapter 373. Duan Tianfeng's death was a huge blow to Duan He. Because of this, Duan He had sent out 20 great venerables to destroy Dragon Sect. If it had been the rank 3 Long family in the past, they definitely wouldn't have agreed, but the situation was different now. In the battle between Longao and Long Chun, whether or not Long Chun had limited his realm, the final result was Longao's victory. Moreover, Longao had killed Duan Tianfeng. Long Maoan knew very well that if he chose to stop this, the Imperial City would definitely fight him to the death. 20 great venerables, the Imperial City was very generous. This was the foundation of the 4 great forces. Not only that, Duan He had personally gone to the rank 3 Long family, Nether Mansion, and Ethereal Palace, and offered them generous conditions to join forces against Dragon Sect. The 3 families' intentions were simple. If the 4 great forces wanted to join forces to deal with a small dragon sect, it would be making a mountain out of a molehill. However, the Imperial City's conditions were too tempting. In the end, the 3 families agreed, and the rank 3 Long family didn't care about their face and also chose to join. According to the Imperial City's Duan He, the 4 great forces would each send out 20 great venerables to form a super army of 80 great venerables. The variables of Longao and Dragon Sect were too great. Duan He wasn't willing to gamble at all. If he lost and Longao went into hiding, then finding him in the vast sea of people would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The 4 great forces of Spirit Realm of the 9 states, the Eastern Imperial City, the Western rank 3 Long family, the Southern Nether Mansion, and the Northern Ethereal Palace would each send out 20 great venerables. Once the news spread, it shook the entire 9 states continent. Everyone broke out in a cold sweat for Longao and Dragon Sect. After all, everyone knew what 80 great venerables represented. Although the 4 great forces had joined forces, there were many problems. It wouldn't be easy to quickly form an army of great venerables. In any case, the strength of the 80 great venerables of the 4 great forces was almost the same. They were all lofty existences, and no one would submit to anyone. If this continued, the result would be terrible. Of course, the 4 major forces were well aware of this. What should they do? After thinking about it, the 4 great forces finally reached an agreement. The method was simple. In a situation where each influence sent out 20 great venerables, the imperial city would also send out a world king to lead the great venerables armies. Like this, the problem would be solved. Of course, Longao had also received news of the imperial city's alliance with the three major forces. Longao never imagined that the imperial city would be like this. There were a total of 80 great venerables as well as a world king. Such strength was enough to sweep through the entire 9 provinces. Everyone who received the news turned pale with fright, and their hearts were filled with worry. No matter how it was said, the 4 great influences had sent out a total of 80 great venerables and a world king. Such strength was far too terrifying. Could the dragon sect resist them? Long family, main hall. Wang Yidao and Long Haoshi's faces were extremely ugly. Long Haoshi thought for a moment and said, "Ao, if it doesn't work, you should take the dragon sect and hide." As the saying goes, a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. When we become stronger in the future, it won't be too late to take revenge. How could Longao not know about his grandfather's worries and misgivings? However, could he and the dragon sect escape? Longao was also a little worried about the 80 great venerables and a world king. This was because such a powerful army could not be destroyed even with the help of the heaven and earth array. Grandfather, the grudge between me and the imperial city will have to be settled sooner or later. Rather than settling it later, why don't we settle it earlier? I want to take this opportunity to let the 4 great influences know that I, Longao, am not a pushover. Seeing that his grandson was so confident, Long Haoshi was very curious. Could it be that his grandson already had full confidence and confidence? Grandfather, don't worry. I will settle the matters of the imperial city. Longao did not want his grandfather to worry. With the fire Qilin in the family, not to mention 20 great venerables and a world king, even if an illusionary divine stage martial artist came, the fire Qilin would not be afraid. According to the fire Qilin would recover in a few months. At that time, unless a titled great emperor personally came, who would dare to harm the Long family? Long Haoshi looked deeply at his grandson in front of him, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he swallowed his words. Longao left Longao Peak. According to the speed of the 4 great influences, it would take at most 10 days for the 80 great venerables and a world king to arrive at the dragon sect. No matter what was said, this battle was incomparably important. If he won, he would be able to deal a heavy blow to the 4 great influences. But if he lost, not only would he lose, but even his sect would be destroyed. The heaven and earth array was the only thing Longao could rely on right now. If he chose to meet the 4 great influences head-on, there was a 100% chance that he would not be a match for them. But in the current situation, even with the help of the heaven and earth array, it would be difficult to resist 80 great venerables and a world king. Longao had roughly calculated that if it was just 80 great venerables, then as long as he stimulated the world thunder tribulation and fused them into the heaven and earth array, he believed he would be able to deal with them. But the problem now was that the imperial city had sent out a world king martial artist. Once the world king martial artist broke through the heaven and earth array, the consequences would be unimaginable. Dragon sect, atop a mountain peak. Longao quietly sat atop the mountain peak, thinking about how to deal with the army of 80 great venerables and a world king from the 4 great influences. Longao was well aware that he only had 10 days. If he could break through to the great venerables realm within 10 days, then with the help of the heaven and earth array and the power of thunder tribulation, he would be able to completely obliterate this army. But he had just asked Long Fu. If he wanted to refine the Kirin's soul, he would need at least a month. Did he have to temporarily avoid them? Unless he had no other choice, Longao really didn't want to avoid them. He had finally managed to defeat the imperial city and the 3rd-level Long family with great difficulty. As long as he could hold on, as long as the sect could hold on, he believed that the sect would be able to go against the tide. Longao, seeing the youth that suddenly appeared in front of him, Longao was startled. This was because from start to finish, he hadn't sensed this youth's aura at all. What did this mean? Illusionary divine boundary? Great emperor boundary? Longao couldn't sense what Sherpotion's true strength was. But the only thing he could be sure of was that this person in front of him was truly terrifying. Longao even had a feeling that he didn't even have the strength to fight back. Shirpatian. Longao didn't know how strong Shirpatian was. He only knew one thing, and that was that this person had led the army of spirit beasts to attack Crimson Dragon City. If he hadn't appeared in time, the 4th-level Long family would have been annihilated. This was Shirpotian's strength. Who was Shirpatian? Shirpotian's beautiful face smiled and said, I've already understood the grudges between you and the 4 great influences. Not bad, not bad at all. Chapter 374. Longao didn't say anything. He just stood there quietly, because he knew that Shirpatian must have something to ask of him. Again, Longao was very wary of Shirpatian. Longao couldn't imagine how he could sneak into the dragon sect without anyone noticing. If Shirpatian were to slaughter everyone in the dragon sect, would anyone be able to stop him? Longao, I'll get straight to the point. I've come to find you for 3 things. Go ahead. First, I want to control the Dragon Valley, and I need your help. Waving his hand, Longao didn't wait for Shirpatian to continue with the other 2 matters. He immediately said, Shirpatian, you think too highly of me. The Long clan and the Dragon Valley are too far away for me. I can't promise you this. Control the Dragon Valley? Longao was shocked by the first thing Shirpatian said. If it weren't for the fact that Shirpatian didn't seem to be crazy, he would have thought that Shirpotian's head had been kicked by a donkey. There was actually someone in this world who wanted to control the Dragon Valley? Everyone knew that the Dragon Valley and the Long family were allies. In order to control the Dragon Valley, one had to first defeat the Long family. Longao knew how terrifying Shirpotian's strength was, but he wouldn't believe that Shirpatian could defeat the Long family and control the Dragon Valley. What's more, the other party had just said that he needed his help. What a joke. Shirpatian wasn't angry at all, as if he had already expected this. He smiled and said, Longao, as long as I can control the Dragon Valley, I can promise that your Long family will be the Long family in the future and will split the Dragon Valley equally. How about it? Shirpatian, you think too highly of me. You don't want to? It's not that I don't want to, but I don't have the right. Longao was a little depressed. He didn't know if there was something wrong with Shirpotian's head. In this world, there were many people who envied Long family, and there were even more people who wanted to replace the Long family. However, no one dared to openly try to take control of the Dragon Valley. That was simply courting death. Shirpatian, I'm very puzzled. What gave you such courage? Moreover, with my strength, do you think we can control the Dragon Valley? Waving his hand, Shirpatian said confidently, I didn't say that I want to control the Dragon Valley now, but in the future. As for when, I'll inform you. As for whether you have the right to control the Dragon Valley or not, that's not up to you. You just have to tell me whether you agree or not. Longao would have scoffed if anyone else had told him that they wanted to take control of the Dragon Valley. However, Shirpotian's strength was unfathomable. Did he really have the confidence to take control of the Dragon Valley? The Dragon Clan was one of the strongest clans in the world. The Longao was a selfish person, so he naturally hoped that his family would replace the Long family and settle down in the Dragon Valley. However, Longao knew that this was a path of no return. Once he stepped on it, no one could guess whether he would live or die in the future. He had to give it a try. In the end, Longao chose to give it a try. He nodded and said, All right, but I have a condition. Since you and I are working together, you have to help the Long family increase their strength. No problem, Longao. You have to know that life and death experiences can increase your strength the fastest. Therefore, I will not help you. However, I will give you 2 World Emperor Spirit Beasts to help you guard the Dragon Sect. How about it? Longao's heart skipped a beat. What did 2 World Emperor Spirit Beasts mean? This was Shirpotian's strength. To be able to casually send out 2 World Emperor Spirit Beasts, Shirpotian's strength was definitely above the Void Realm. He was either in the Illusionary Divine stage or the Great Emperor stage. It would be a lie to say that he was not surprised. No matter what, if the Dragon Sect could have 2 World Emperor Spirit Beasts, then he would not have to fear the 4 major powers. At that time, he would be able to develop the dragon sect freely. Many thanks. We are just working together. All right, let's talk about the second thing. No matter what, I hope that you can enter the dragon ranking within 3 years and enter the top 5. This shouldn't be difficult. F***ck Longao could not help but curse in his heart. He was really starting to wonder if there was something wrong with Sherpotion's head. The first thing was already crazy enough. Now, the second thing was even more abnormal. Entering the dragon ranking and entering the top 3 in 3 years, was that even possible? If it was just entering the dragon ranking, it would not be difficult. However, to enter the top 3 of the dragon ranking, that would be extremely difficult. Sherpotion, you really think highly of me. Your talent is right there. There is no need to belittle yourself. I believe that within 3 years, you will definitely be able to enter the top 3 of the dragon ranking. Sherpotion was so confident in him. Could it be that he did not believe in himself? Since things had already come to this point, Longao knew that he had no other choice. Moreover, Sherpotion had sent out 2 World Emperor Spirit Beasts to help him. I will do my best. Now, tell me the third thing. It's still early for the third thing. After you finish the second thing and we finish the first thing, it won't be too late for me to talk about the third thing. Without waiting for Longao to speak, Sherpotion summoned 2 dragon wolves. Their huge bodies emitted waves of cold air as they stared coldly at Longao. 2 World Emperor Dragon Wolves. Dragon Wolf, one of the branches of the Dragon Clan. They possessed the bloodline of the giant dragon and were extremely powerful. It was precisely because of this that Longao was even more shocked. Who exactly was Sherpotion? Why was he able to mobilize the spirit beasts at will? It was as if he could control all the spirit beasts. Longao did not continue to ask, because he knew very well in his heart that if Sherpotion wanted to say it, there was no need for him to ask. Longao, although there are 2 dragon wolves guarding the Long family, I still have to advise you that if you want to enter the continent in the future and dominate the heavens, it is impossible to rely on the power of the outside world. So you must develop your own power. Longao nodded. Regarding this point, how could he not know? But to develop the strength of the family quickly was easier said than done. As if he could guess what Longao was thinking, Sherpotion suddenly smiled and said, I have a way to speed up the growth of your Long family's strength, but it is very dangerous. I wonder if you are willing to give it a try? Of course. Longao was delighted. What he needed the most now was to speed up the growth of his family. If there was a chance, he naturally would not be willing to give it up. Longao, in the 9 continents continent, there is a very mysterious place called Sin City. Have you heard of it? Sin City? Longao shook his head, indicating that he had never heard of it. After all, the Sky Martial continent was too big, and there were too many places that he did not know of. It was normal that he did not know of Sin City, so Longao did not care too much about it. Chapter 375. Then, Sherpotion began to talk about the City of Sin. The City of Sin. According to Sherpotion, the City of Sin was the evilest place in the 9 states. That place was filled with blood and slaughter. If you entered the City of Sin, you didn't even know if you could come out alive. Those who entered the City of Sin were either people who had committed heinous crimes and were being hunted down by the 4 major forces or other forces. They had nowhere else to run and entered the City of Sin. Or they were warriors who had killed too many people and were looking for more excitement to enter the City of Sin. In the end, the City of Sin was an extremely terrifying place. Sherpotion's meaning was simple. According to the chaotic state of the City of Sin, as long as one could carve out a place of their own in the City of Sin, they could quickly gather their own people. The people of the City of Sin were all warriors who had killed many people. If they could build their own forces, it would be of great help to their family's growth. After hearing this, Longao nodded and asked, Where is the City of Sin? The Chaos Territory of the 9 states. Chaos Territory? Longao engraved this name deeply in his heart because he had already decided that no matter how terrifying Sin City was, he would make a trip to Sin City and establish his own force. Longao, I have something to do, so I will leave first. If there are no accidents, we will meet again in 3 years. I hope you will not disappoint me then. What about the 2 dragon wolves? I will lend them to you for 3 years. After 3 years, they will leave the dragon sect." As soon as he finished speaking, Sherpatian turned and left. In an instant, he disappeared without a trace. Standing quietly at the peak of the mountain, Longao thought back to his conversation with Sherpatian. He realized that Sherpatian was not ordinary, whether it was his identity or his strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such words. What was Sherpatian's background? Longao didn't continue to think about Sherpatian's identity because he knew that with his current strength, he didn't have the right to know. Longao had a feeling that the position he was currently standing at was still at the lowest level. If he wanted to stand higher, he had to be stronger. Looking at the two dragon wolves in front of him, Longao suddenly laughed. 10 days later, the four great influences were the East Imperial City, the West Third Grade Long Family, the South Nether Mansion, and the North Misty Palace. Each of them sent out 20 great venerables, so there were a total of 80 great venerables from the four great influences. In addition to the World King from the Imperial City, this force entered Sky Province and headed towards the Dragon Sect. Everyone was worried for the Dragon Sect. No matter how it was said, the four great influences had sent out a World King and 80 great venerables. They were far too powerful. Let alone the Dragon Sect, even the old families and sects wouldn't be able to resist them. As soon as the great sovereign's army entered Tianzhou, Longao received the news. "Dragon Sect, Main Hall. Are you all ready?" "Master, we're ready." Everyone was excited because they knew that the Master had found 2 World Emperor Dragon Wolves from somewhere. Not to mention resisting the army of great sovereigns, they were more than enough to fight the 4 great forces. The World Emperor was at the pinnacle of the Void Realm. Moreover, the 2 Dragon Wolves had the blood of the colossal dragon in their bodies. They were extremely powerful. This time, I want to refine 80 great sovereign corpse slaves and a World King corpse slave. Longao was very excited. This was because with the help of the 2 Dragon Wolves as well as Long Fu's refining, as long as he could successfully kill all the great sovereigns and world kings, then he could refine 80 great sovereign corpse slaves and a World King corpse slave. What kind of concept was this? Longao had full confidence that once he refined such a powerful corpse slave army, with the addition of the 2 Dragon Wolves and the Fire Qilin overseeing the Dragon Sect and family, even if he left, the family and the sect could rest easy. "Master, the army has arrived at the door. What should we do?" "Ha ha ha, good. All of you, head to the mountain valley. I want to show you how to slaughter great sovereigns and world kings." Hearing this, everyone was excited. After all, no one present had ever seen 80 great sovereigns and a world king being slaughtered. They feared they would never be able to see such a thing in their entire lives. Longao could be considered high class. Not only did he allow the high-level figures to head to the mountain valley to watch the battle, but even the outer court disciples, inner court disciples, and even core disciples were allowed to go. Longao's meaning was simple. He wanted everyone to see the terrifying strength of the Dragon Sect. There was nothing wrong with joining the Dragon Sect, because only the Dragon Sect could bring them to the peak. For a time, over 1,000 people flooded into the mountain valley. There was a sea of people everywhere. In front of the Dragon Sect, the Imperial City's one-leaf World King led 80 great sovereigns as he looked at the Dragon Sect with disdain. No one could understand why they needed to go through so much trouble to deal with a tiny Dragon Sect. 80 great sovereigns and even a World King were making a mountain out of a molehill. "Longao, there is no need to speak any more nonsense. Come with us and we can spare your life." Momentum. A powerful momentum. This was the momentum of a World King of the Imperial City. As a World King and also a high and lofty super elder of the Imperial City, One Leaf was certainly arrogant. Moreover, Longao was only a disciple of an ordinary domain's Long family. If it weren't for the Master's son being killed and the Master inviting him, he wouldn't have come at all. To bring 80 great sovereigns to deal with a tiny dragon sect, even if they won, it would be a bit shameful. But One Leaf knew that there was nothing he could do. After all, the 60 great sovereigns of the other 3 influences had been invited by the Master with great difficulty. A World King martial artist and 80 great sovereigns released a powerful momentum that ruthlessly pressed down. If it were an ordinary Empyrean, just this momentum alone would be enough to crush them to death. But Longao's situation was different. Longao calmly stood where he was, coldly looking at the 81 people in front of him. His body silently released the momentum of the world. Like this, Longao used his strength alone to resist the combined momentum of 81 masters. What sort of concept was this? The 81 people thought that their momentum would be able to suppress Longao, but no one imagined that not only would he ignore them, but he would also directly resist them. As One Leaf felt this momentum of the world, he cried out in alarm, "The momentum of the world! Impossible! This is impossible! How could you possibly have the momentum of the world?" One Leaf certainly knew what the momentum of the world represented. It was because of this that he didn't dare to believe that this person was able to accomplish this. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that a mere Empyrean could actually release the momentum of the world. Impossible? There is nothing impossible in this world. Wait a moment, I will slaughter all of you, and none of you will be able to leave. Do you believe me? Chapter 376. Longao, have you been scared silly? Longao, do you really think that just because you have the aura of the world you are invincible? This boy must have been scared silly. You want to slaughter us all? What makes you think you can do that? What makes you think I can do that? Longao ignored the taunts and contempt of the many great sovereigns. He wanted to thoroughly enrage everyone so that he could lure them into the mountain valley and then beat them all up. Longao, I really suspect that there is something wrong with your head. Hearing One Leaf's ridicule, all the great sovereigns crazily laughed. However, this matter was indeed funny. At the very least, in the eyes of these great sovereigns, Longao's words were truly laughable. Longao's cultivation speed was indeed fast, and his talent was amazing. But in the end, Longao was still an Empyrean martial artist. But what about their own side? Not counting One Leaf World King, just the great sovereigns alone numbered over 80. They simply didn't need to join forces. As long as a single great sovereign attacked, they would be able to easily eliminate Longao. Longao, I know that the dragon sect has a powerful array formation, but as long as we surround this place and kill everyone we see, what do you think the final result will be? The news of Longao killing the Supreme Venerables had been spreading like wildfire all along. Everyone said that the reason Longao was able to kill a great sovereign wasn't because of his own ability, but because of the sect's array formation. Otherwise, with just Longao's strength alone, it would have been impossible for him to be a match for a great sovereign. Array formations were incomparably powerful existences. If an array formation could kill a great sovereign, then one could imagine just how powerful it was. It was because of this that before they came, everyone had already decided that they wouldn't attack the dragon sect. They would wait here and trap the dragon sect until they died. In the end, everyone, including One Leaf World King, was afraid of the dragon sect's array formation. How could Longao not know what everyone was thinking in their hearts? He sneered and said in a mocking manner, "So all of you are afraid of the dragon sect's formation. How sad and lamentable. Since that is the case, I will give all of you a chance. Let's find a place and I will fight all of you alone." Fuck your grandpa. You want to fight all of us alone? A great sovereign cursing was the greatest news in the world. However, Longao's arrogance and taunting had thoroughly enraged these normally lofty great sovereigns. How could the 80 great venerables endure being looked down upon by a mere Empyrean? However, Iya waved his hand. Before he came, he had already received news that Longao had killed Su Chun by using this method. He had successfully lured Su Chun and the others into the dragon sect's formation and killed them all. It was the same old trick again. Of course, One Leaf wouldn't be fooled again. What kind of joke was this? If Longao casually chose a place, who knew if there was an array formation there? If he could kill a great sovereign, then he could also kill them. One Leaf was well aware that the reason Su Chun and the others were killed by Longao was not only because of the array formation, but also because of the World Thunder Tribulation. But One Leaf still didn't dare to gamble. If he lost, then his fate would be the same as Su Chin's. It was because of this that One Leaf wasn't fooled and allowed Longao to choose a place. Longao, we don't need to choose. You can choose any place here. As long as you can win, then we will immediately turn and leave, never to return. How about it? Although his cultivation had officially broken through to the celestial master realm, Longao still had self-awareness. With his current strength, it seemed that it was still difficult for him to defeat a great sovereign. Not to mention, there were so many experts eyeing him from the side. He snorted in disdain and said mockingly, I always thought that the experts sent by the four major powers this time would be earth-shaking cultivators. It turns out that they are just a bunch of cowards. Since that is the case, I will not fight with trash. Please do as you wish. With that, Longao turned and left. Seeing that Longao was going to return to the dragon sect, everyone was shocked. Because of the array formation in the dragon sect, no one dared to take a step into the dragon sect. If Longao really chose to hide in the dragon sect, would they really have to wait here? Waiting here was a trivial matter. Everyone was afraid that if this matter spread out, where would the four great forces' face be? Where would their face be? Longao, don't call me. You really are trash. 80 great sovereigns and a world king. All of you are nothing more than a bunch of cowards. Since you don't dare to come in or accept my challenge, why bother trying to be heroes? I advise you all to roll back so you don't disgrace yourselves here. After being humiliated like this by Longao, the 81 people were all enraged. But, because they feared the array formation, they didn't dare to approach. If this matter were to spread out, the 81 masters of the four great forces would become the laughingstock of the world. It was because the 81 people thought of this that they couldn't let Longao leave. But Longao was standing in front of the dragon sect. As long as he wanted to, he could return at any time. Could they just let him return to the dragon sect? Longao, we accept your challenge. But you cannot choose the location, we must. Longao was overjoyed. In truth, he was fully confident that no matter where the 81 people chose, as long as he could close the door and beat them, it would be fine. With a sneer, Longao turned around and began counting with his fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Listening to Longao counting them one by one, everyone's face was gloomy to the extreme. Longao did not put them in his eyes at all. If they could still endure such humiliation, they would despise themselves to death without others despising them. Waving his hand, Es stopped the enraged crowd. He ruthlessly said, Longao, there is no need for you to play any tricks here. We will choose the location. As I said before, you can choose anyone. As long as you can win, we will spare your life. Shaking his head, Longao let out a deep sigh and said, the words of the four major forces are just like farts. If I remember correctly, the Long family and the Imperial City have already broken their promise before. Not just once. As for the Serene Hades Mansion and the Misty Palace, I'm afraid they are all jackals of the same tribe. Tell me, is it funny to talk about honesty with you bunch of untrustworthy things? They were speechless because what Longao said was true. The Long family and the Imperial City had indeed broken their promise before Longao a few times. But, of course, they wouldn't admit it. Ia coldly smiled and said, no one can replace us. We will not break our promise. Longao, are you afraid? Ha ha ha, I am afraid? I, Longao, have never been afraid, especially when facing you four great forces. Each and every one of you is trash, complete trash. Why would I be afraid? They rushed out one by one, and before they arrived, the 8 great venerables' auras had already pressed down on him. However, Longao stood there quietly. He didn't even move an inch. Seeing that Longao did not move, the 8 venerables became even angrier. However, at this time, Longao suddenly dodged to the side and a black shadow shot out from behind. Before the 8 venerables could figure out what was going on, they were already swallowed by the black shadow, killing the 8 supremes in one move. Seeing the sudden appearance of the dragon wolf in front of them, especially the terrifying aura emitted from the dragon wolf, everyone was shocked. At the same time, they exclaimed, World Emperor Spiritual Beast. No one had ever thought that there would be a world emperor spiritual beast in the dragon sect. This was simply a mistake, a huge mistake. The consequences of this mistake were very serious. At this moment, everyone finally understood why Longao was so fearless. Even without relying on the formation, he was still so arrogant. It turned out that the dragon sect had a world emperor spiritual beast. No wonder. Yi cursed fiercely. He did not dare to stay any longer. He turned around and fled with the remaining 72 great sovereigns. However, to everyone's horror, another dragon wolf appeared behind them. It was also in the World Emperor realm. 2 World Emperor dragon wolves? Yi and the others were completely dumbfounded. Now that they were in the valley, there was a wolf in front and a wolf behind. It was like catching a turtle in a jar. Yi naturally knew what Longao wanted. How could he dare to stay any longer? Everyone flew away, but what awaited them was the suppression of aura, the suppression of aura belonging to a world emperor. The 2 dragon wolves did not have the slightest pity. In their hearts, there was only obedience and slaughter. The 72 great sovereigns and 1 world king might be very strong, but in front of the 2 world emperor dragon wolves, the so-called experts were nothing. Slaughter. A slaughter without any resistance. Yi and the others did not have the strength to resist. In just a few seconds, the 72 great sovereigns were slaughtered. Longao was not polite at all. He sent the souls of the 80 great sovereigns into the dragon seal space along with their corpses. Longao had already decided that after killing the 80 great sovereigns and world lord Yi, he would not refine their power. Instead, he would refine 80 great sovereign corpse slaves and 1 world king corpse slave. After all, he already had the fire Qilin soul. It was more than enough. Once he had 80 great sovereign corpse slaves and 1 world king corpse slave, the overall strength of the dragon sect would double. Even if he was not present, the dragon sect would still be able to contend with the 4 great forces. The remaining Yi was already riddled with wounds. Not to mention fighting against the 2 dragon wolves, even Longao could easily kill Yi. At this moment, Yi was very unwilling. But the winner was king, and the loser was a bandit. No matter what, he had been defeated, thoroughly defeated. Yi was very clear in his heart that the dragon sect had a powerful array formation and 2 world emperor dragon wolves. Even the 4 great forces could not kill them as they wished like before. Longao, you won, but you borrowed the strength of the dragon wolves. So in the end, you did not win. Cursing in his heart, Longao said mockingly, no matter what, you have lost. If you lose, you have to admit defeat. Just based on this point alone, you are not worthy of being a martial artist. Without giving Yi any chance to speak, Longao continued, Yi, if you had admitted defeat, I could have accepted you into the dragon sect. But now, you no longer have the chance. Ha ha ha. Hearing this, Yi suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. His laughter was filled with helplessness and unwillingness. This was because he never thought that he, a dignified world king of the imperial city, would fall to such a state. It was lamentable. Longao, don't think that you can contend with the 4 great forces just because you have 2 world emperor dragon wolves. I can tell you clearly that as long as the 4 great forces are determined to destroy you, the imperial city alone is enough to easily destroy your dragon sect. Do you believe it? I don't believe it. I have heard this sentence too many times, but no one has been able to realize it. Besides boasting, what else can you imperial city do? You. All right, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. No matter what happens to me in the imperial city in the future, you will not be able to see it. I won't send you off. Chapter 378. I won't send you off. Just as Longao finished speaking, One Leaf's body fell to the ground. 80 great honorables and a world king from the 4 superpowers were all killed. Based on Longao's previous temper, these corpses would have been sent back to the 4 superpowers. However, Longao did not do so. Longao was about to leave the sect for Sin City. Although there were 2 dragon wolves guarding him, it was better to be safe than sorry. Because of this, Longao was prepared to create an army of great honorables corpse slaves. With a World King corpse slave, he believed that the strength of the sect would be enough to go against the four superpowers. Longao's heart skipped a beat when he heard the threat from One Leaf. Longao was sure that the four superpowers, East Royal City, West Rank 3 Long Family, South Netherworld Mansion, and North Ethereal Palace, all had illusionary divine experts. Longao knew that the illusionary divine experts were the trump cards of the four superpowers. Unless it was a last resort, the four superpowers would not use the illusionary divine experts. After thinking about it, Longao decided to go to Sin City and develop his own superpowers as soon as possible. Just like what Sherpatian had said, borrowing the power of the outside world was never the right way to go. If he wanted to dominate the mainland, he had to increase the strength of his own family and sect. This was what he had to do. The news of the dragon sect killing One Leaf World King and 80 great honorables had spread throughout the entire 9 regions, including the 4 superpowers. Was this true? Did the dragon sect really do it? This was the question that everyone wanted to ask. However, the truth was right in front of them. Even if some did not believe it, the truth spoke louder than words. Longao and the dragon sect had succeeded in turning the tables, causing everyone to have a new understanding of the dragon sect and Longao. The 4 superpowers: East Royal City, West Rank 3 Long Family, South Netherworld Mansion, and North Ethereal Palace. 80 great honorables were killed. Other than the Imperial City, the other 3 superpowers were furious. After all, no one could afford to lose 20 great honorables. At this moment, the 3rd rank 3 Long Family, Netherworld Mansion, and Ethereal Palace were extremely regretful. If they knew this would happen, they would not have accepted the Imperial City's invitation. Among the 4 major forces, the most furious was still the Imperial City. This time, the Imperial City had not only lost 20 great venerables, but also a world king. Even his own son had died. The anger in Duan He's heart could be imagined. Spirit domain of the 9 states. Within the Imperial City, Duan He sat alone in the main hall with a gloomy face. No one knew what he was thinking. Here, can't you take such a small blow? Hearing the voice and looking at the old man who suddenly appeared, Duan He's body trembled violently. Master, are you going to leave? Hearing that Longao wanted to leave the sect, everyone was shocked. They didn't know why the master would choose to leave at this time. After all, the dragon sect had just obtained a great victory. As long as there were no accidents, the 4 great forces would not let this matter rest. When the 4 great forces came back, how could the sect resist them? Longao was the pillar of the sect. Without the pillar, no one knew what to do. Longao smiled and said, I have an important matter to attend to, so I'll be leaving for a period of time. Remember, while I'm gone, the sect must quickly develop. Once the 4 great forces come back, all you have to do is go into seclusion and leave everything to the Dragon Wolf. Longao was completely confident. As long as the 2 Dragon Wolves were present, even if the 4 great forces came back, they wouldn't need to fear them. Everyone seemed to want to say something, but Longao waved his hand and said, Big Brother Dugu and Big Brother Patian, stay here. Everyone else, leave first. Although they were curious and worried, Xiajun and the others still stood up and left one by one. There were only 3 people left in the hall, Longao, Dugu Bai, and Long Patian. Master, are you really going to leave? Big Brother Dugu, Big Brother Patian. I must leave this time because I have a very important matter to attend to. After I leave, the sect will be handed over to the 2 of you. If the 2 Dragon Wolves are disobedient, you can use the corpse slaves of the Corpse Slave Hall. Longao had always kept the Corpse Slave Hall a secret. Besides Long Patian and Dugu Bai, no matter what, Longao had to leave. If he left, what would happen to the sect? Because of this, Longao had told the 2 of them the secret of the Corpse Slave Hall. Thus, the 2 of them also knew of the existence of the Corpse Slave Hall. It was so quiet that it was scary. Everyone thought that the 4 major forces would launch an even stronger counterattack after being severely injured by Longao. But what was the result? The 4 major forces were biding their time, and no one knew what they were up to. Level 3 Dragon Clan, Main Hall. Long Maoan and Long Yan's faces were gloomy. Both of them still could not accept the fact that the dragon sect's strength had grown to such an extent. It was almost a matter of days. Wasn't it a little too fast? Master, what should we do now? Wait and see. Master, are we going to let Longao go just like that? How could Long Morwan not know what the elder meant? He laughed coldly and said, if I'm not mistaken, the Imperial City wants us to go to war with the dragon sect. They want both sides to suffer losses so that they can reap the benefits. If we were to attack at this time, wouldn't we be doing exactly what the Imperial City wants? So that's why. Elder, you're afraid that someone will monitor the dragon sect's every move. I want to know how Long Ao did it. Just with the formation? Long Maoan wasn't stupid. He knew that the destruction of the army couldn't be because of the formation. After all, there was already a precedent. Unless Iya and the others were crazy. If it wasn't because of the formation, then what was the problem? Got it, Master. Just as the four major families chose to wait and see, Long Ao had already arrived at the spirit region of the 9 states. According to Sherpatian, Sin City was located in the southernmost part of Sin City. It was a deserted town. This time, Long Ao came to the 9 states spirit domain. But he didn't immediately go to Sin City because he wanted to properly entertain the 4 major forces. This was called giving them a taste of their own medicine. Because of this, Long Ao settled down and began to assassinate the disciples and elders of the 4 major forces. Long Ao wasn't a killing machine. He didn't kill the ordinary disciples of the 4 major forces. Instead, he killed the core disciples and elders of the 4 major forces. With Long Ao's current strength as a heavenly venerable, he could kill anyone below the level of a great venerable instantly. Even if he encountered a great venerable, he could still kill him if he had enough time. However, Long Ao didn't assassinate a great venerable. If the 4 major forces caught the opportunity, wouldn't it be counterproductive? In the beginning, the 4 major forces didn't care because they didn't think that anyone would dare to mess with them. The spirit region of the 9 states was one of the 4 overlords. Who would dare to mess with them? However, as time passed, the 4 major forces realized that something was wrong. 3 days later, the 4 major forces had assassinated more than 100 people. What did that mean? After thinking about it, the 4 major forces thought of one person at the same time. Long Ao. The 4 major forces could be said to be shocked and angry because the 4 major forces had never thought that Long Ao would dare to enter the 9 regions' spirit domain so openly and assassinate their disciples. This was simply a provocation. He didn't put the 4 major forces in his eyes. It was simply unbearable. The customers of the brothel could bear it, but the prostitutes couldn't bear it. Therefore, the 4 major forces immediately issued a kill order and chase order. No matter what happened, they had to kill Long Ao. For a time, the spirit region of the 9 states changed. All this was because of the appearance of one person. This person was Long Ao, who had severely injured the 4 major forces. He was a legend and a loser who liked to counterattack. Long Ao was not only famous in the ordinary spirit region, he was even more famous in the spirit region of the 9 states. Everyone was very curious. How could a small disciple of the Scarlet Fire Town do so many earth-shattering things in less than a year? Just severely injuring the 4 major forces was not something that everyone could do. However, what made the 4 major forces extremely angry was that no matter how they searched, they couldn't find any trace of Long Ao. Long Ao seemed to have disappeared from the world. Under their eyes, their core disciples and elders were assassinated. The 4 major forces' face was completely lost. However, there was nothing they could do. They could only be angry and anxious. P.S. Something happened at home, so I didn't have time to inform everyone. Sorry. Chapter 380. The 4 major forces thought that Long Ao had left Jiuzhou spirit domain. After all, the 4 major forces had issued a kill order and chase order, unless Long Ao was really not afraid of death. For 3 days, the 4 major forces couldn't find any trace of Long Ao. Just when everyone thought that Long Ao had left Jiuzhou spirit domain, Long Ao appeared again like a ghost. Long Ao was very smart. He didn't choose to fight the 4 major forces head-on. Every time he appeared, he would kill a few core disciples and elders, and then directly escape, not giving the four major forces any chance. What made the four major forces even angrier was that Longao appeared in the Imperial City for the first time, and no one knew where he would appear the second time. Anyway, it was like guerrilla warfare, killing wherever he went. Once or twice was fine, but if it went on for a long time, the four major forces couldn't bear it. After all, core disciples and elders were the foundation of a force, and it was very damaging. Under the anger, the four major forces completely went berserk. They directly blocked all the exits without caring about anything else. The situation was precarious. If it was before, everyone would think that Longao was courting death, but now, Longao's successful counterattack and heavy losses to the four major forces made everyone look forward to Longao. They wanted to see how Longao would deal with the four major forces. As the saying goes, a barefooted person is not afraid of wearing shoes. Longao was alone, and the four major forces couldn't find him. If this continued, the core disciples and elders of the four major forces would be slaughtered by Longao sooner or later. How could the four major forces not know about this point? So what if they knew? The four major forces couldn't find him at all. Even if they wanted to take revenge, they could only be anxious. Guerrilla warfare, Longao had some time anyway. As long as the four major forces relaxed, he began to assassinate the core disciples and elders of the four major forces. Inside the Imperial City, Longao disguised himself a little, and the Imperial City could no longer recognize him. In any case, the population of the Imperial City was almost tens of millions. It was easier said than done to find a person in the vast sea of people. After entering the Imperial City, Longao was prepared to properly entertain the Imperial City. If he didn't kill at least 100 or 200 people, he would be letting down the Imperial City. Longao's sudden assassination had caused the four major powers to call back all their core disciples. No matter who it was, they didn't want to rashly go out during this period of time. After all, the four major powers had never encountered such a madman. With the horrifying strength of the four major forces, who would dare to provoke them? Moreover, Longao was just a disciple of a small family in an ordinary spirit realm. Everyone clearly knew that the reason why Longao was acting like this was because he wanted to take revenge. Within the Imperial City, Longao followed the three Imperial City conclave disciples as they headed east. After walking for an indeterminate amount of time, the three of them stopped, and there was no one around. Longao's figure moved. However, Longao left quickly and returned even faster. His expression was very ugly because a person suddenly appeared in front of him. It was none other than the Imperial City's city lord, Duan He. Longao wasn't a fool. Of course, he knew that this was a trick played by Duan He. What a despicable and shameless person. However, Longao wasn't worried at all. He stood quietly and looked at Duan He in front of him. Longao, you really don't know what's good for you. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. Are you saying that only the Imperial City is allowed to deal with the dragon sect, but not the Imperial City? Longao's face was filled with disdain and ridicule. An existence like the Imperial City wasn't worthy of its name. The Imperial City and Duan He's intentions were very simple. If I hit you, you have to obediently stand there and let me hit you. However, you can't hit me. Longao, do you really think that you're invincible? I don't know if I'm invincible or not, but I do know one thing. The Imperial City is like a floating cloud in my eyes. Duan He, the Imperial City and I originally didn't have any grudges. We've always minded our own business. However, the Imperial City is always looking for trouble. If I don't do something, you won't know what color the clouds are. He was fearless. The more confident Longao was, the more worried Duan He was. Could it be that this person was really confident? Duan He was a peak world emperor. He could be considered to be standing at the peak of the Void Realm. Because of this, Duan He had full confidence that he could deal with the other party. In his eyes, Longao was trash. Ignoring Duan He, Longao was ready to leave. Since he dared to come to the Imperial City to assassinate the core disciple of the Imperial City, Longao had long expected that this day would come. Hence, he wasn't worried at all. Longao, how dare you? Seeing that the other party was ignoring him, he was furious. His world emperor aura suppressed fiercely. However, at this time, Longao also released the chi of heaven and earth. How could the world emperor aura resist the chi of heaven and earth? He, who was originally full of confidence, almost cried out in surprise when he sensed the chi of heaven and earth released by the other party. Looking at Longao running away, he didn't chase after him. He stood quietly in the same place. Until now, he didn't seem to have reacted. Chi of heaven and earth, chi of heaven and earth. It's actually chi of heaven and earth. Could it be that this person is a reincarnation? He obviously knew what chi of heaven and earth meant. Unless one was reborn, there were very few people who could condense chi of heaven and earth. Moreover, there was another kind of person, which was a reincarnation. Could it be that Longao was a reincarnation of an expert? As if he had guessed something, he muttered to himself, "If I'm not mistaken, this child should be an expert from a Long family." This time, he reincarnated as a disciple of an ordinary family. Otherwise, how could his cultivation speed be so terrifying? Thinking of this, he didn't dare to be careless. He immediately returned to the imperial city and found his father, Kai, and directly told him his guess. After listening, Kai's face became very serious. He nodded and said, "Your guess is very likely. As the saying goes, it's better to be safe than sorry. If this child is really the reincarnation of an expert from a Long family, we will be in big trouble." Smiling bitterly, he said helplessly, "Father, I'm worried about this. If this child is really the reincarnation of an expert from a Long family, then according to the grievances between us, I believe that this child will not let this matter rest." Kai obviously understood the meaning of He's words. He sneered and said, "Even if there is trouble, it will be a common trouble for our 4 families. I won't let others take advantage of us. Later, I will personally go to the 3 families. When the time comes, the 4 families will form an alliance. No matter what happens, we will kill this child as soon as possible to avoid any trouble." He knew that even if his father knew about Longao's identity, he would still find it troublesome. But after thinking about it, he felt relieved. After all, once a reincarnation recovered the strength of his original body, the consequences would be unimaginable. Not to mention, Longao still had an entire Long family behind him. P.S. I'm finally back. Sorry, Little 9 will immediately start writing today's 10 chapters. As for yesterday's 2 chapters, I'll finish them in the morning. Everything will be finished tonight. Dragging it out every day is boring. Chapter 381. One day later. Level 3 Long Family, Main Hall. After receiving He's notification, Long Maoan was completely shocked. He had never expected Longao to be the reincarnation of an expert from the Long family. This was going to be troublesome. "Master, is He joking? Impossible. I've heard that when a martial artist reaches nirvana rebirth, they will be able to gather the chi of heaven and earth. Even if they fall, their soul can still forcefully enter the cycle of reincarnation and seal their soul memories. Sect leader, could it be that everyone can succeed?" 1 in 10. Hearing this, Long Yin was shocked. He thought for a while and said, "Master, what should we do now?" He has just informed us that no matter what, we cannot let Longao live. Otherwise, if Longao is really the reincarnation of an expert, the consequences will be unimaginable when his original body awakens. Long Maoan knew clearly that in order to become a reincarnation, one had to reach nirvana rebirth at the very least. Once such an expert awakened his original body, even if the 4 major forces joined forces, they might not be a match for Longao. Longao did not know what the 4 major forces were thinking. He was the reincarnation of an expert? If Longao knew about this, he would definitely laugh his head off. However, Longao did not continue to stay because he knew very well in his heart that at this moment, the 4 major forces would definitely be incomparably furious. If he continued to stay, the 4 major forces would definitely not let this matter rest. The spirit region of the 9 states was boundless. In the southernmost part of the spirit region of the 9 states, there was a desolate land. In the southernmost part of the spirit region of the 9 states, there was a huge city called Sin City. As the name implied, on the martial heaven continent, there were many powerful martial artists who had committed heinous crimes and were looking for excitement. They would constantly enter Sin City. After 3 days of traveling, Longao finally arrived at Sin City. Looking at the huge city in front of him, Longao was shocked. Sin City was like a giant beast that could devour heaven and earth. "Brat, get the F***ck out of my way." At this moment, a sluggard walked over unsteadily with a pot of wine in his hand. When he saw Longao blocking his way, he seemed to be in a bad mood. "F***ck, a good dog doesn't block the road. Don't you know that?" Longao's face darkened, but in the end, he endured it. After all, this was the city of sin. He had just arrived and did not want to complicate matters. "F***ck. Seeing that Longao didn't speak, Luomo drank a mouthful of wine and ruthlessly kicked at him. This seemingly simple kick was actually abnormally terrifying. This was because Luomo was a genuine Empyrean martial artist. Longao didn't dare to be careless and dodged to the side. Luomo didn't expect that Longao would be able to dodge his kick. Luomo's kick missed, so he followed up with another kick. Once was an accident, but what about twice? At this moment, Luomo finally sobered up. He said with shock, "I really didn't expect that you would also be an Empyrean. Not bad. For you to have such results at your age, not bad at all. Old drunkard, you're F***king bullying me again." Looking at the flirtatious woman who had suddenly appeared, Longao had thoroughly experienced the people of Sin City. He realized that no matter who it was, the words that came out of their mouths were vulgarities. If it wasn't your father, then it was your mother. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Longao didn't dislike the people of Sin City because he knew that the people here were much more honest than the people outside. They dared to love, dared to hate, and dared to take responsibility for their actions. Because of this, Longao smiled helplessly. He couldn't be bothered with the two of them and turned to enter Sin City. "Little handsome brother, if I'm not wrong, this should be your first time in the city of sin. If you don't have enough beast cores, I can guarantee that you'll last for at most 10 minutes. If you take out enough beast cores, I can also guarantee that you'll die faster than anyone else." When he heard this, Longao stopped abruptly. He turned around and asked curiously, "Why is that?" "I can tell that you're a newbie. All right, since you're not bad-looking, I'll tell you. Come here." This was Longao's first time in Sin City. He didn't know much about Sin City, so he didn't dare enter rashly. Based on the conversation between the two of them, Longao knew that the two of them had been in Sin City for a long time and could be considered old foxes. "What's your name?" "Longao." "Longao?" When Lon tried her best to search for Longao's name in her mind, but she was disappointed. Longao might be famous outside, but in Sin City, he was nothing. It was understandable that the two of them did not know about him. If the two of them knew that the young man standing in front of them was the one who had heavily injured the 4 major forces and assassinated their core disciples, what would they think? "My name is Wan Lon. You can call me Sister Wan or Sister Lon. As for him, you can just call him Old Drunkard." F***ck. Old Drunkard seemed unhappy, but he seemed to be afraid of Wan Lon. He only muttered a few words and didn't dare to say more. "Brother Long, since this is your first time in Sin City, I'm sure you don't know much about it. Let me tell you about Sin City first." Wan Lon found a place for the three of them to sit down. At this time, Wan Lon said, "Sin City has a total of 5 sovereigns. They are Eastern Emperor Luo Tian, Western Emperor Wu Ming, Southern Emperor Zhou Chun, Northern Emperor Yifeng, and Central Emperor Nangong Tuesday. Therefore, Sin City is divided into 5 sections. All this time, the 5 sovereigns have been minding their own business. 5 sovereigns. The 5 sovereigns have agreed that no matter what grudges they have, they won't fight in Sin City. Once they are discovered, they will kill without mercy. That's right, the 5 sovereigns have their own law enforcement officers. Every one of them is a great sovereign. So even if you are a heavenly sovereign, you have to be obedient. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't shocked. Longao never thought that the law enforcement officers of Sin City would be great sovereigns. It was hard to imagine how strong the 5 sovereigns were. Could they be world kings? Or world kings? Longao was almost certain that the 5 sovereigns of Sin City were world kings. Because if a world king wanted to monopolize Sin City, it would be a bit difficult. Brother Long, Sin City has a written rule. No matter who enters, they have to hand over beast cores. The longer you stay, the more beast cores you have to hand over. Unless you buy a house here to stay, you will go bankrupt if you stay in Sin City for a night. So if you don't have enough beast cores, it's best if you don't go in. Otherwise, the law enforcement officers will find trouble with you. Sin City devoured people without spitting out their bones. P.S. Tonight, I will finish 10 chapters. Tomorrow, I will make up for yesterday's 2 chapters. Then, I will add 8 more chapters. Including tomorrow's 10 chapters, Little 9 will release a total of 20 chapters tomorrow. Everyone, please support, tip, and vote. Chapter 382. Brother Long, I want to ask you, how many beast dawn do you have? Although when Lon looked kind, Longao didn't believe her. Longao was very clear in his heart that anyone who could survive in Sin City was not simple. Therefore, he had to be 120% alert and could not relax for even a moment. Poochie, looking at Longao, when Lon suddenly laughed and said, Brother Long, you are really careful. Let me tell you, I have more beast dawn than you have hair on your body. I don't need to steal your beast dawn. Do you understand? Caution is the parent of safety. You may know a person's face, but not his heart. Hearing this, the old drunkard was furious. But when Lon waved her hand and said, You are right, people are sinister. You can't trust anyone, especially in Sin City. Longao didn't say anything and just looked at the two coldly. Seeing Longao's vigilance, Lon didn't ask for a rebuff. She helplessly shrugged and said, I hope you won't cry and beg me when the time comes. There won't be such a day. Ha ha ha, Brother Long. I like your character. See you later. Seeing the old drunkard and Lon leave and enter Sin City, Longao didn't hesitate and took out 10 Xiantian beast dawn. He was going to give them to the city enforcement officers to enter Sin City. Sin City, City Gate. Wait, who are you? Tell me your name. Longao, 10 Xiantian beast dawn. It really was 10 Xiantian beast dawn. Sin City was really ruthless. Longao didn't want to waste his breath on the guards. After all, when Lon had said that the city enforcement officers were all great venerables. If there was a conflict, the city enforcement officers would be in a lot of trouble. No matter what, he came to Sin City this time mainly to develop his own strength and not to cause trouble. It was because of this that Longao took out 10 beast cores and placed them on the table. 10 beast dawn? The two guards smirked. Their intentions were clear. In fact, Longao knew what the two of them meant. No matter what, this was his first time in the City of Sin. There was no doubt that the gatekeepers would look down on him. Longao, there's a new rule in the City of Sin. The first time you enter the City of Sin, you have to pay an extra 30 Xiantian beast cores. The two of them didn't continue speaking, but their eyes and expressions made it clear what they meant. It was very simple. If you want to enter the City of Sin, you have to take out 30 Xiantian beast cores. Otherwise, you won't be able to enter. Originally, if the two of them wanted an extra 10 beast cores, Longao would have accepted it as long as they entered the City of Sin first. But now, Longao's face instantly turned cold when he heard the other party asking for 30 Xiantian beast dawn. If he really gave them 30 Xiantian beast dawn, would they still want more? Could it be that he was going to give it to her indefinitely? Longao knew that the two of them were still looking down on him. They thought that since it was his first time in the City of Sin, he didn't have the strength to back him up. Who else would they bully if not him? A dog relying on its master's power. Longao didn't continue taking out more beast cores. He just stared coldly at the two of them, suppressing his murderous aura. His voice was like hell. Why do others only need 10 Xiantian beast cores, but I need 40 Xiantian beast cores? Aren't you guys relying on your master's power? Looking at Lin Fan's cold eyes, the two of them couldn't help but shiver. They stuttered. Others are others, you are you. Do you want to behave atrociously in the city of sin? There were a total of 5 sovereigns in the city of sin, and they were jointly in charge of the city of sin. Therefore, the beast cores that were handed over would be divided equally among the 5 sovereigns. The extra 30 beast cores that Longao handed over would go into the pockets of the 2 sovereigns. How could Longao not know about this? Although the 5 sovereigns in the city of sin didn't stipulate this, it had already become a habit. Everyone turned a blind eye to it. After all, this kind of thing was inevitable. Kid, let me tell you clearly. If you dare to violate the rules of the city of sin, the 5 sovereigns won't let you off easily. You better know what's good for you. Otherwise, humph. The 2 sovereigns only snorted twice. The threat in their words was very clear. Although they were afraid of Longao's gaze, with the 5 sovereigns as their backing, they weren't afraid of him at all. They had nothing to fear. Things had already come to this point. Longao couldn't bear it anymore. At most, they would break up. But if they wanted him to compromise, there was no way. Just like that, the 2 sides were in a deadlock. Longao only handed over 10 beast cores, but the 2 sovereigns refused to let Longao in. Isn't this Brother Long? What's going on? Seeing Wenlan suddenly appear, the 2 sovereigns were obviously relieved. They smiled and said, Miss Wenlan, so Longao is your friend? You can say that. Did you ask for extra beast cores from him? For my sake, just let it go. The 2 sovereigns couldn't wait to let it go. Although they had the support of the 5 sovereigns, Longao's gaze was too cold. Just looking at him was enough to make them scared. If they really fought and were killed, then even if the 5 sovereigns appeared, they would still be dead. Since you're Miss Wenlan's friend, then you don't have to pay the beast cores today. But remember, from now on, when you enter the city of sin, you have to pay the beast cores according to the time. Originally, it was 20 beast cores in 2 hours. But since you're Miss Wenlan's friend, I'll charge you 19 beast cores. 19 beast cores in 2 hours? How many beast cores in 1 day? How many beast cores in 3 days? 1 month? 1 year? Longao didn't even dare to imagine. No wonder Wenlan acted like that. Longao now realized that staying in the city of sin for a few more days was simply an extravagant hope. Did he really have to buy a house in the city of sin? But at this time, the 2 sovereigns who had just softened up suddenly hardened their expressions and said, according to the rules of the city of sin, newcomers must pay an extra 10 beast cores every 2 hours. In addition to the 20 beast cores from before, that's a total of 30 beast cores. Looking at your shifty eyes, I'm sure you're up to no good. So you have to bet 1,000 beast cores first, or get out of here. Just when Longao was wondering if the 2 sovereigns were stupid, 5 people walked over from not far away. Each of them was emitting a powerful aura. Longao's heart skipped a beat. Of course, he knew who they were. Looking at the 5 people who were slowly walking over, their faces were filled with arrogance and coldness. It was as if there were 7 big words written on their foreheads. I am an urban management officer. Who am I afraid of? Longao had the urge to laugh out loud. Chapter 383. What's going on? The 5 of them asked coldly. They did not even look at Longao and Wenlan. Wenlan's face changed when she saw the 5 of them. She kept winking at Longao. After all, in Sin City, other than the 5 great sovereigns, the most powerful people were the enforcement officers. However, Longao ignored her. Wenlan was so anxious that she almost exploded. Captain Situ, this person has no regard for the rules of Sin City. He is not willing to hand over the beast core and wants to enter Sin City. Situ Ren was surprised. He did not expect that someone would dare to behave atrociously in Sin City. What kind of place was this? It was not an exaggeration to say that people ate each other. Moreover, killing a person here was as easy as killing an ant. Get out if you don't want to hand over the beast core. Sin City does not welcome you. Overbearing. This was the dominance of the enforcement officers of Sin City. Not to mention that the enforcement officers had the 5 great sovereigns as their backing, they were also extremely powerful. That was why the enforcement officers were so confident. Do you own Sin City? Brother Law, Lin Fan waved his hand to stop Wen Lan from persuading him. Things had already come to this point. He could not back down. Otherwise, not only would he not be able to leave Sin City, he would also be beaten up. Looking at the young man in front of them, the 5 enforcement officers of Sin City suddenly burst into laughter. It was as if they had heard the funniest thing in the world. They could not imagine that someone would dare to behave atrociously in Sin City. Moreover, the other party was only a heavenly sovereign. Heavenly sovereign? If a heavenly sovereign was outside, they might be considered a powerful existence. However, in Sin City, heavenly sovereigns were everywhere. Moreover, the 5 enforcement officers were genuine great sovereigns. If a heavenly sovereign were to pick a fight, wouldn't he be seeking his own death? Young man, Sin City has clear rules. We enforcement officers can punish you on the spot at any time. However, seeing that you have just entered Sin City, I will spare you. Kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake. The 5 enforcement officers' eyes were filled with mockery and contempt. Their motive was simple. They wanted to humiliate Longao. If this happened in the outside world, there would be a lot of people watching the show. However, in the city of Sin, this was a common occurrence. Only a few people gathered around. Have you heard of the song Conquest? Conquest? Of course, the 5 city management officers had never heard of Longao's Conquer. Before the 5 of them could speak, Longao said, I'll give the 5 of you a chance. Kneel down and sing Conquer. Perhaps I'll spare you. Back then, when Longao was in Scarlet Fire Town, his cultivation was unable to break through, and he was reduced from a genius to a trash. He suffered all kinds of humiliation, and every day after he finished cultivating, he would always go to the market to sit down. It was at that time that he heard a lot of curses, as well as this so-called conquest. Although the 5 of them did not know how to sing Conquer, they knew the meaning of conquer. Because of this, the 5 of them were furious. Situ-rin snorted and sneered, very well. It seems like Sin City hasn't been reorganized for a long time. It's time to teach them a lesson. Brother Situ, Brother Long just made a slip of the tongue. He just came to Sin City and doesn't know anything. Why don't you give me some face and let Brother Long go? Wen Lan's voice was extremely gentle, especially with a hint of coquettishness, which made Situ-rin smile and look at Wen Lan lustfully. Everyone knew that although Wen Lan was a great Zun cultivator, many years ago, Situ-rin was born a bandit and was naturally lustful. Although Wen Lan was not a peerless beauty, her seductive charm was hard for men to resist. Situ-rin laughed lecherously and said, Luckily, I will give you face and let this brat go for now. But you have to hand over the beast cores, not a single one less. Otherwise, Situ-rin did not finish his sentence, but the meaning of his words was very clear. I have something to do now. Come find me later. Brat, you better be smart. This is Sin City, not the outside world. Looking at the 5 people walking away, Longao's eyes became colder. If Wen Lan had not stopped him, Longao might have already attacked. Brother Long, let me give you a piece of advice. This is Sin City. You can't afford to offend the city management. If there is nothing else, I advise you to leave Sin City. Longao suddenly had a good impression of Wen Lan. No matter what kind of person she was, she had helped him out just now. Wen Lan, thank you for this time. But you don't have to do this. Waving her hand, Wen Lan laughed and said, Brother Long, I'm not like you. I've been in the city of Sin for 10 years. If it wasn't for my beauty, I'd be dead by now. Wen Lan was indeed very honest. Looking at Wen Lan's helpless face, Longao sighed deeply. How could he not know Wen Lan's difficulties? Longao knew. A heavenly sovereign was nothing in Sin City. If a woman wanted to live a better life in Sin City, would she be able to rely on strength alone? All right, Brother Long. Take care of yourself. This is all I can help you with. Longao seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he swallowed his words. Looking at Wen Lan, who was walking away, Longao turned around and looked at the 2 people coldly. He said in an extremely cold voice, 10 beast cores. If you want them, take them. If you don't want them, don't take them. As for the rest, you'd better shut up. Humph, brat, you don't have to act like a boss here. Why didn't you dare to be so arrogant just now? Humph, slap, slap. Without giving the two people any chance to react, Longao slapped each of their faces with his earrings. By the time the two people reacted, Longao was already far away. The next time I see you, you won't be so lucky today. The two people covered their faces with their hands. They were extremely angry. For so many years, no one had dared to behave atrociously in Sin City and slap them in the face. Even if they didn't give them face, they had to give face to the 5 great sovereigns. Longao, just you wait. I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Yes, let's go find Big Brother. I don't believe that a mere heavenly sovereign can be so powerful. Of course, the two of them didn't dare to find trouble with Longao. After all, they were only Unification Realm warriors. However, they had a big brother who was extremely powerful and was a great sovereign. The two of them looked at each other and immediately turned to leave. Longao's face was gloomy. Before entering Sin City, he had already seen the rules of survival in Sin City. At the end of the day, it was still man-eat-man. Those without strength had to be beaten up obediently. Those who resisted would be killed. This was Sin City. If a warrior was timid and weak, he wouldn't be able to survive in Sin City. Sin City, 5 great sovereigns. Chapter 384. Longao had just stepped into Sin City and had already offended the 5 city enforcement officers. To outsiders, this wasn't a wise move. Sin City was huge and bustling with people coming and going. It was strange. The people in Sin City were all arrogant, murderous, and bloodthirsty maniacs. But no matter who it was, as long as they entered Sin City, they would become obedient. That was because there were 5 kings in Sin City. Back then, the 5 kings had set a rule that no matter who it was, as long as they stepped into Sin City, they would be killed without mercy. The 5 kings were the absolute overlords of Sin City. No matter who it was, they couldn't go against the 5 kings. Longao entered Sin City and asked about the houses in Sin City. He didn't know if he didn't ask, but when he did, he was shocked. It turned out that the houses in Sin City were extremely expensive. Just a small house would cost tens of thousands of beast dawn. What kind of concept was that? But if you didn't buy it, you wouldn't be able to live in Sin City for long. At most, you wouldn't be able to withstand it for a month. There was no choice. Longao came to Sin City this time to develop his power. If he didn't even have a house, not to mention developing his power, he wouldn't even be able to continue staying in Sin City. Tens of thousands of beast dawn. This wasn't a problem for Longao. After all, he had been through life and death situations. Longao still had some life left in him. Kid, you want to buy a house? Seeing the old drunkard, Longao nodded. He didn't have a good impression of this person.
Yes.
Since you want to buy a house, why don't you buy mine? I'm preparing to leave Sin City. Back then, I spent 70,000 beast dawn. Now, I'll sell it to you. Half the price, only 35,000 beast dawn. How about it? 35,000 beast dawn? Longao had already calculated. According to the current price of a house in Sin City, it would cost at least 40,000 beast dawn. A few years ago, it was 70,000 beast dawn. Now, it would be even more expensive. Sin City. Longao didn't think too much about it. After all, he had just stepped into Sin City and didn't have any grudges with the old drunkard. The old drunkard wouldn't harm him. The current Longao indeed did not have any extra beast cores on hand. He could barely exchange for 40,000 beast cores, so the old drunkard's residence was just what he wanted. After thinking for a while, Longao nodded and said, "Deal, but I don't have that many Sciention beast dawn. I only have Metamorphosis beast dawn. How about I give you the Metamorphosis beast dawn?" All right, since that's the case, let's begin. Nodding, Longao took out about 1,000 Metamorphosis beast dawn from his bosom. If he exchanged them for Sciention beast dawn, 35,000 would be more than enough. Just like that, the two of them went through the formalities as fast as they could. The old drunkard said, "Longao, come with me. I'll show you the mansion." Longao didn't say anything as he followed the old drunkard. Not long after, the two of them arrived at a very remote street. There were only a few people here and there, but there were quite a few houses around. Each house was very nice, but it seemed too quiet. As if he could guess the doubts in Longao's heart, the old drunkard laughed and said, "Longao, this is a rich district. Ordinary people won't come here. It's very quiet, so it's definitely worth it for you to buy this place." Nodding, Longao really liked this place. Just as the old drunkard said, this place was very quiet. Even if he wanted to do something, it wouldn't be easy to be discovered. But Longao was even more curious. Even if the old drunkard was in a hurry to leave the city of sin, he wouldn't sell it for 35,000. But since things had already reached this point, Longao knew that he had no way out. "Old drunkard, I want to ask, where are the 5 great emperors?" Entering the city of sin this time, Longao hoped to develop his own force. The 5 great emperors were the overlords of the city. If he could subdue the 5 great emperors, he believed that it would be of great help to the establishment of his force. Longao, the 5 great emperors aren't in the city of sin. They are the Eastern Emperor Luo Tian, Western Emperor Wu Ming, Southern Emperor Zhou Qian, Northern Emperor Yifeng, and Central Emperor Nangong. Tuesday nodding, Longao had already guessed that the 5 great emperors wouldn't be in the city of sin. While they were talking, the 2 of them had already arrived at the entrance of an extremely luxurious house. The old drunkard drank a mouthful of wine and said with a smile, "Longao, this is my house. 35,005 beast dawn. It's a good deal for you. I'm in a hurry to leave the city of sin. Goodbye." Seeing the old drunkard leave in a hurry, Longao was even more curious. Pushing open the door, Longao walked in. Stunned, looking at the mansion in front of him, Longao never imagined that the old drunkard's mansion would be so overbearing. 35,005 beast dawn could buy such a mansion? Regardless of whether others believed it or not, Longao definitely didn't believe it. Entering the house, it was empty. Not to mention people, there might not even be a cockroach. Helplessly shrugging his shoulders, it seemed that he had picked up a big bargain this time. 35,005 beast dawn for such a big house. Longao walked around and didn't find anyone. Only then did he enter to carefully observe. A few minutes later, Longao's face became even more ugly because he found that the entire house was covered in a thick layer of dust. Not to mention 1 or 2 days, even if 1 or 2 months had passed, no one would have lived here. What was going on? At this time, Longao suddenly looked outside and sneered, "So it's you guys." 3 people walked in from outside. Of course, Longao recognized 2 of them. They were the 2 guards at the door. Instantly, Longao understood what was going on. It seemed that the 2 guards had found helpers to deal with him. "Humph, Longao, weren't you very arrogant just now? Now I want to see how arrogant you can be. You dare to make a move in Sin City? Ha ha ha, others might not dare, but my big brother dares. My big brother is a city enforcement officer. Even if he kills you, no one will interfere. Do you believe it?" Of course, Longao believed it because he already knew the rules of Sin City. Within Sin City, the 5 great sovereigns had made it clear that no matter who it was, no one was allowed to fight in Sin City. Anyone who violated this rule would be killed without mercy. However, there was one type of law that could be enforced in Sin City, and that was the city enforcement officers. In other words, the city enforcement officers could kill people. Even if they killed someone, no one would pursue the matter. This was the city enforcement officer's right. Great sage. The helpers that the 2 guards had found were also great sages. Longao wasn't too worried because with his current strength, even if he couldn't kill a great sage, he was more than enough to fight a great sage. Yu Wenhui was a member of the town security and a great venerable. He could be considered the 2's godbrother. The main reason was that the 2 of them were his lackeys, and they were at his beck and call. No matter what happened, he left it to the 2 of them. If his dogs were beaten, the master would naturally appear. P.S. There's no need to wait tonight. Yesterday's 2 chapters, today's 5 chapters. Tomorrow, little 9 will make up for it all. See you guys tomorrow morning. Chapter 385. With the support of the city enforcement officers, the 2 of them were not afraid of anything. It could be said that in the city of sin, other than the 5 kings, the the city enforcement officers had the most power. In the city of Sin, who dared to provoke the city enforcement officers? Yu Wenhui did not put Longao in his eyes at all, because there were many examples like this in the past. People who came from the outside were all dishonest, beaten up a few times, or directly killed, and then became obedient. Yu Wenhui smiled and said, Longao, this house is mine. It's not bad, right? Longao had already guessed it, but he replied indifferently, so what if it's yours? I only know one thing. I spent 30,000 5-beast pills to buy this place. If you want it, I'll return it to you for 100,000 5-beast pills. Longao, you're F*King courting death. You dare to have ideas about the boss? Are you tired of living? Ignoring the two of them, Longao said without a trace of panic, I've already said that this house is mine. I spent 30,000 5-beast pills. Even if you're a city enforcement officer, you don't have the right, right? Longao's guess was correct. Yu Wenhui did not have the right. This time, Yu Wenhui used the house as bait to lure Longao here. He was prepared to teach him a lesson. As for the house, would Longao dare to take it? But in this world, there were indeed many reckless people who wanted to occupy his house. Yu Wenhui smiled eerily and said, Longao, I have to admit that you're really arrogant, but you have to have the right to be arrogant. I can tell you clearly that in the city of Sin, a sky sovereign is not even a fart. If I want to kill you, I can do it in a matter of minutes. Do you believe me? I don't believe you. Hearing Longao's words, Yu Wenhui was first stunned. Then he laughed out loud as if he had heard the funniest thing in the world. Suddenly, Yu Wenhui's face turned cold and he said, Longao, if I kill you, do you think you can still own this place? Idiot. Longao was too lazy to care about the three of them. He said with a murderous aura, if you want to fight, then let's fight. Why are you talking so much nonsense? You chose this place because you don't want others to know. Fine, I will fulfill your wish. The three of them were stunned by Longao's words because they had never imagined that Longao would still be so stubborn under such circumstances. He was simply courting death. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Both of you, go. The more confident Longao appeared, the more uncertain Yu Wenhui became. After all, if he dared to enter the city of Sin alone, he definitely had something to rely on. It was precisely because of this that Yu Wenhui wanted the two of them to test out the other party's depths. Us? Hearing that their big brother wanted the two of them to go up, the two of them looked extremely terrified. Pa, pa. 2 slaps were delivered, and the two of them were sent rolling far away before they could barely stop. Useless things. Yu Wenhui stared at the youth in front of him. Suddenly, Yu Wenhui moved. However, at this moment, a terrifying aura of heaven and earth rose from Longao's body, followed by a dragon's roar. Aura of heaven and earth? Dragon's roar? Feeling the aura of heaven and earth and hearing the dragon's roar, Yu Wenhui was completely scared silly. He didn't know where the Nirvana rebirth and giant dragon came from. At this moment, Longao grasped this rare opportunity and rushed forward like an arrow. Before he arrived, his soul attack had already ruthlessly pierced into the other party's mind. You're so shameless. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for Longao to successfully attack the other party with his soul attack. However, Longao used a diversionary tactic, borrowing the aura of heaven and earth and the dragon's roar to attract Yu Wenhui's attention. When Yu Wenhui focused all of his attention on the aura of heaven and earth and the dragon's roar, Longao instantly used his soul attack, which could hit almost every time. Yu Wenhui's soul was heavily injured, so he naturally knew what had happened. He clearly knew that if it was a real battle, the other party wouldn't be his opponent. However, no matter what, it was his own carelessness, and he couldn't blame anyone else. Not daring to hesitate, Yu Wenhui turned around and prepared to leave. But would Longao agree? If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it would grow again when the spring breeze blew. Longao was very clear that he was currently in the city of Sin. If this person ran away, he would find even more great sovereigns, and at that time, he would be in big trouble. Currently, the 5 great sovereigns still didn't know of his existence. Taking advantage of this time, He could develop his own forces. By the time the 5 great sovereigns found out, he would already have the strength to contend against them. In the end, this person couldn't be left alive. Thinking of this, Longao directly released the aura of heaven and earth while taking out the God-punishing mirror and God-sealing pearl. 2 strange forces wantonly released, instantly enveloping Yu Wenhui. Just what had happened. At this moment, Yu Wenhui's spirit beast was heavily injured. Originally, it could only be locked on for 3 seconds, but it had been locked on for 5 seconds. Moreover, time had been reversed by 3 seconds, causing Yu Wenhui's speed to decrease by 3 seconds. Yu Wenhui's speed decreased by 3 seconds, but Longao's speed increased by 3 seconds. What kind of concept was this? Longao Yu. Without giving Yu Wenhui any chance to speak, Longao's fists had already fiercely smashed out, smashing precisely on the top of Yu Wenhui's head. There was no suspense at all as he breathed his last. Seeing their big brother die with a single punch, the 2 of them were already scared silly. Their bodies trembled as if they had seen a demon. The 2 of them had never imagined that Longao could kill their big brother with a single punch. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have chosen to believe it even if they were beaten to death. But it had to be known that their big brother was a genuine city enforcement officer, and a great sovereign at that. How could he be smashed to death just like that? Longao, you dare to kill my big brother? Are you not afraid of death? Longao coldly looked at the 2 of them. He hated this kind of people the most. He didn't even bother to speak with them. Longao directly released his aura and crushed the 2 of them to death. The 3 of them had come looking for trouble this time. From the beginning to the end, they had never thought that they would go for wool and come home shorn. Especially Yu Wenhui, who had thought that it would be easy to deal with him. But in the end, outside Sin City, the old drunkard had just left Sin City and was about to fly away. But before the old drunkard could move, a ghostly figure suddenly appeared behind him. The figure patted the old drunkard's shoulder and sneered, "Old drunkard, why are you in such a hurry? Why don't you stay? I have something to say to you." Hearing the voice, the old drunkard didn't even need to turn around to know who it was. Perhaps he had a guilty conscience, or perhaps he had guessed something. After all, the fact that Longao was able to chase after him meant that Yu Wenhui hadn't succeeded in killing Longao. Chapter 386. The old drunkard turned and looked at the youth in front of him. He soberly said, "You are truly fierce. I want to know why." The ghostly figure that suddenly appeared was none other than Longao. Longao didn't need to guess. He already knew that this was a scheme of Yu Wenhui and the old drunkard. Otherwise, if it weren't for the old drunkard, would he have bought Yu Wenhui's residence? Longao always had his own principles. If others didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. If others offended him, he would return the favor twofold. Longao, I'm sure you know what sort of place Sin City is. Since that's the case, I won't explain any further. There is only one reason, and that is that I want to survive. The old drunkard was honest enough. Longao was also a bit impressed. He said, "Although I admire your honesty, you still betrayed me. So, you must die today." "I know this. Since you were able to kill Yu Wenhui, that means your strength has already surpassed that of a great senior. I'm only curious. If you are a world king martial artist, why are you forcefully suppressing your cultivation?" Longao was stunned by the old drunkard's words. He didn't know what the old drunkard was trying to say. Longao instantly understood. He nodded and said, "You don't need to know this. Are you going to kill yourself, or do you want me to help you? If I return to Sin City, you won't have the chance to kill me. Do you believe me?" "I don't believe you. If you don't believe me, you can try and see whether or not I can kill you." Longao had complete confidence in himself. It was because of this that the old drunkard looked deeply at Longao, not daring to move or run away. The old drunkard was frightened by Longao. If others were to know of this, they would definitely laugh their heads off. Of the 8 boundaries of void, each boundary was a qualitative change. The disparity between Empyrean void and Great Senior Void was enormous. It could be said that under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be difficult for Great Senior Void to kill Empyrean Void. But for Empyrean Void to kill Great Senior Void, that would be an extremely difficult matter. But the current situation was that both of them were Empyreans. You win. Although he didn't want to admit it, the old drunkard knew very well that he had already lost in terms of momentum. Especially with Yu Wenhui's death, he didn't have the slightest confidence that he could defeat his opponent. In the end, the old drunkard chose to commit suicide. However, before dying, the old drunkard still chose to drink. Helplessly shaking his head, Longao felt that it was a pity, but he wasn't sad because everyone chose their own path. Since they had chosen it, then they shouldn't regret it. As long as no one knew that he had killed Yu Wenhui and the old drunkard, this matter could be considered over. He returned to his residence. Longao knew that Yu Wenhui had already been killed by him, so the residence that he had bought, from now on, would truly belong to him. No matter what, no one knew that Yu Wenhui was looking for trouble with him. Otherwise, the people who came looking for trouble this time would not be just Yu Wenhui alone. As soon as he returned to the house, Longao's expression changed, and he was instantly overjoyed. After closing the gate of the house, Longao found an extremely secluded place. His soul immediately communicated with the dragon seal and entered the dragon seal space. Inside the dragon seal space, Longao couldn't wait and asked in surprise, "Long Fu, have you really finished refining the Qilin soul?" "Yes, Master. I didn't expect the refining speed to be so fast. Master, since we've successfully refined the Qilin soul, we should strike while the iron is hot and raise Master's cultivation base to the great sovereign realm." Longao nodded. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. Although he could fight and kill a great sovereign with his current strength, he knew that he was no match for a great sovereign with his current strength. Longao knew that he was no match for a great sovereign with his current strength. It was very difficult to make up for the gap in cultivation base with other things. Longao had full confidence that as long as his cultivation base could break through to the great sovereign realm, even if he was only an elementary great sovereign, then even if he couldn't kill a great sovereign instantly, he could kill a great sovereign within 10 moves. This was Longao's confidence. It was because of this that Longao was a little impatient. Long Fu seemed to know that his master was very anxious, so he didn't hesitate and the two immediately started. Leaving the dragon seal space, Longao sat on the ground and directly operated the 9-cycle reincarnation technique in his body, slowly drawing out the celestial golden core. The biggest difference between Heavenly Venerate Void and Grand Venerate Void was their gold core. The other difference was their ability to fly. Heavenly Venerate Void could only fly for a short period of time, but Grand Venerate Void could fly for a long time. Great Sovereign Void. Longao began to frantically absorb the power from the dragon seal space. The sacred desolation body was known as the number 1 cultivation sacred body since ancient times, and also the number 1 cultivation waste body. This was because the sacred desolation body required a huge amount of power. If it weren't for the dragon seal space, Longao would have found it extremely difficult to fill up the sacred desolation body. In other words, if an ordinary person had this kind of physique, it would be extremely tragic. There was only one demonic thing about the sacred desolation body, and that was that there was no bottle to speak of. As long as there was enough power, it could naturally be improved. The sacred desolation body. Longao was frantically absorbing the power refined from the Qilin soul. According to Long Fu, he only needed a quarter of the power to be promoted to a junior great sovereign. If he wanted to progress all the way, he had to absorb all the power. Of course, Longao wouldn't do this, because if he did, he would be too selfish. Not only himself, but Longao also transferred all the power to Longchong and Longming, so that one person, one dragon, and one tiger could advance at the same time. As for how to deal with the remaining power, Longao was already prepared. According to his original intention, Longao planned to give the remaining quarter of the power to his family to improve the family's strength. However, things had already reached this point, and Longao knew that he couldn't give the power back at this time. As a result, Longao was prepared to absorb the remaining power and break through to a middle great sovereign or even a senior great sovereign in one fell swoop. This way, even if he encountered a peak great sovereign, he could easily eliminate them. In any case, there were always 5 sovereigns in Sin City. If he wanted to establish his own force, especially in Sin City, there were only 2 ways. The first way was to directly slaughter the 5 sovereigns, and the second way was to subdue the 5 sovereigns. However, Longao knew very well that no matter which way it was, it would be extremely difficult for him. Although he hadn't heard of the 5 sovereigns, Longao was almost certain that the 5 sovereigns in Sin City were world sovereigns. Chapter 387. After absorbing a quarter of the energy, Longao's heavenly Venerate Golden Core transformed into a Great Venerate Golden Core. However, Longao didn't stop there. He continued to absorb the energy. Not only Longao, but Long Chong and Long Ming had also become Great Venerate Spirit Beasts. While Longao was absorbing the energy, he was also stabilizing his cultivation base. Otherwise, it would take him hundreds of times longer to stabilize his cultivation base. 2 hours later, Longao's face was filled with surprise. In just a few hours, his cultivation base had successfully broken through to the mid-level Great Venerate Spirit Realm. This kind of cultivation speed was simply unheard of. If news of Longao's cultivation spread out, would it scare others? Longao, Great Venerate. Longao smiled. Since his cultivation base had successfully broken through to the mid-level Great Venerate Spirit Realm, he didn't choose to stay. Instead, he left the house and went to find the house he had inquired about. Dong dong dong. Longao knocked on the door. At this moment, the door creaked open and Wenlan walked out. Wenlan seemed a little surprised to see Longao. She asked, "Longao, are you looking for me?" Longao nodded and said with a smile, "Aren't you going to invite me in?" "Please." Longao followed Wenlan in. He had to admit that Wenlan's house and Yu Wenhui's house were on 2 different levels. They couldn't be compared. "Longao, don't you think my house is very shabby?" Longao shook his head and said honestly, "If it was outside, it would be shabby. But here, every inch of land is worth its weight in gold." Every inch of land is worth its weight in gold. Wenlan's expression turned gloomy when she mentioned how expensive land was. "When I first came to Nifa's city, not to mention owning my own house, even being able to stay in Nifa's city for a minute was a big problem. Not only is land expensive in Nifa's city, it's also dangerous everywhere. You might be alive one moment, but you might be dead the next. Do you understand?" Longao asked curiously, "Doesn't Sin City forbid killing and fighting?" "Ha ha ha, little brother Long. You are really naive. Do you really believe it?" Looking at Wenlan, Longao was even more curious. Was there anyone who dared to violate the agreement made by the 5 sovereigns? As if she could guess what Longao was thinking, Wenlan pointed to the seat beside her, and the 2 of them sat down. "Brother Long, back then when the 5 great sovereigns ruled over Sin City, there was indeed an agreement that no one was allowed to kill in Sin City. In the beginning, no one dared to go against the 5 great sovereigns. However, as time passed, the situation completely changed. Why is that? Although the 5 sovereigns were the overlords of Sin City in name, the 5 sovereigns would not come here under normal circumstances. They would only send town security to maintain order in Sin City." Wenlan took a sip of tea and continued, "In the beginning, the town security did their best. But the 5 sovereigns would never care about the matters here. Whether it was Sin City or the town security, everything was in chaos. So that's why. Sin City is the 5 sovereigns' world in name, but it is more accurate to say that it is the town security under the 5 sovereigns. In Sin City, the town security are tyrannical. They kill people as if they are ants, but no one dares to stop them. I can say that if this continues, Sin City will be in chaos." Longao nodded in agreement. Of course, he understood the meaning of Wenlan's words. If Sin City was really like what Wenlan said, then it would definitely be chaotic. However, Longao hoped that this would happen. No matter what, Longao came to Sin City this time to establish his own force. If Sin City was really like an iron bucket, then it would be difficult for him to break in, let alone establish his own force. Because of this, Longao hoped that Sin City would become better. This way, he would have a great chance to enter Sin City and establish his own force during the chaos. Brother Long, what are you laughing at? Looking at Longao's half-smile, Wenlan was very curious. She did not know what Longao was laughing about when Sin City was in chaos. Wenlan, if I asked you to follow me, would you be willing? Follow you? Brother Long, what do you mean? Longao didn't try to hide anything. He said honestly, I came to Nefa's city this time to establish my own force so that I can fight against the 5 great sovereigns. I want to destroy them and dominate Nefa's city. Hearing this, Wenlan could not help but laugh. Brother Long, what did you just say? You want to contend against the 5 sovereigns? Dominate Sin City? I killed you, Wenhui and the old drunkard. Ignoring Wenlan's disbelief and mockery, Longao said indifferently. Hearing this, Wenlan was stunned. She stared at Longao and shook her head, saying, I don't believe it. You are only a heavenly venerable, but Yu Wenhui is a great venerable. Can you kill Yu Wenhui? Not only did Wenlan not believe it, once this news spread, no one would believe it. A heavenly venerable killed a great venerable? Was that possible? Longao had already guessed that Wenlan would have such an expression. He did not say anything and just stood there quietly. Wenlan suddenly stopped her mockery and stared at the young man in front of her. She asked in a serious tone, Longao, did you really kill Yu Wenhui? I have no reason to lie to you. Indeed, he had no reason to lie to her. Because of this, Wenlan was even more shocked. She never thought that Longao would really kill Yu Wenhui. Others might not know Yu Wenhui's identity, but she had lived in Sin City for so long. How could she not know? Longao, do you know Yu Wenhui's identity? Nodding, Longao said, Yes, Yu Wenhui is one of the city's law enforcement officers. Longao, are you for real? Yu Wenhui is one of the city's law enforcement officers. If you kill him now, you will be in big trouble. No one knows about this. Longao, it is better to be safe than sorry. What if you are discovered? Wenlan's face was full of worry. After all, she knew what it meant to kill a law enforcement officer. If the 5 sovereigns knew about this, they would not let it go. If Longao was not punished for killing a law enforcement officer, the 5 sovereigns would not be able to dominate Sin City in the future. Therefore, Wenlan was sure that if the 5 sovereigns knew about this, the consequences would be unimaginable. Longao, listen to my advice. You better leave. Otherwise, if the 5 sovereigns know about this, you will be in big trouble. Chapter 388. Waving his hand, Longao said with a smile, Someone's here. Situ Ren. Wenlan stood up and left. Longao was no stranger to this person. If it wasn't for Wenlan, he would have already fought with Situ Ren. In the courtyard, Wenlan had just opened the door when Situ Ren walked in with a smile. Behind him were 4 town security officers. All 5 of them had lecherous expressions on their faces. Wenlan's heart sank. She knew very well why the 5 of them were here. Her heart was filled with disgust, but she didn't dare to say anything. No matter what, the 5 of them were law enforcement officers. Once she offended them, she would be dead. Wenlan, you don't mind the 5 of us coming here together, do you? She cursed in her heart. They were already here. Why were they still talking so much nonsense? She suppressed the disgust in her heart. Before Wenlan could say anything, Situ Ren said impatiently, If you don't have anything else, we'll start immediately. Don't worry. As long as you serve us well, you'll be able to get whatever you want in the City of Sin in the future. Wenlan smiled bitterly. She knew that she had no other choice now that things had come to this. She gritted her teeth and pretended that she was being suppressed. At this moment, Longao walked out from the backyard. Seeing Longao, Situ Ren's face turned cold. He glared at Wenlan and scolded, Slut. Wenlan wanted to say something, but when she saw the coldness in Situ Ren's eyes, she swallowed her words. You have no right to talk about her. If I don't have the right to talk about her, do you? With a cold smile, Longao said mockingly, Situ Ren, who do you think you are? You're just relying on the name of town security. I can tell you clearly, if you're not town security, Who do you think you are? How could Situ Rin endure such humiliation? His face was instantly filled with anger. Before Situ Rin could say anything, Longao continued, Situ Rin, don't think you're someone. In my eyes, you're not even trash. You are courting death. Waving his hand, Longao ignored Wenlan and said, Wenlan, if you follow me from now on, I can guarantee you that no one will dare to bully you anymore, be it a human or a dog. Wenlan took a deep look at the young man in front of her. She couldn't believe it. If she had chosen Longao, what would she do if she ended up being torn into pieces? You don't believe me? She sighed deeply. Now that things had come to this point, she had no choice but to believe it. She nodded. Although Wenlan didn't say anything, her meaning was clear. Very well, Wenlan. Since you dared to betray the city of sin, I will officially kill you on behalf of the 5 sovereigns. Right after Situ Rin spoke, a figure shot out from behind him. This figure was one of the 5 city management officers and was also a great venerate. However, this great senior left quickly and returned even faster. He roared in horror, but before this great senior could figure out what had happened, he was smashed to death by Longao's fist. Smashed a great senior to death with one punch? Situ Ran and the others were shocked and angry when they saw Longao kill their companion with one punch. The 4 of them had never expected Longao to be so powerful. Great Senior? When did Longao break through to the Great Senior Nothingness realm? Not long ago, he had personally sensed his strength. He was indeed a heavenly venerate, but in just a few hours, could this person's cultivation have successfully broken through to the Great Senior Nothingness realm? Was this cultivation speed possible? Regardless of whether others believed it or not, Situ Ren and the others didn't believe it at all. Could it be that this person was hiding his cultivation? This was the only reasonable explanation, but Longao had indeed killed their companion with one punch. Although Situ Ren didn't want to admit it, he knew very well that if it was a one-on-one fight, none of the 4 of them would be a match for him. The most dumbfounded one was Wenlan, because she had never thought that Longao would be so powerful. He was clearly a great senior, but he had suppressed his cultivation, making it seem like he was a heavenly venerate. While everyone was surprised, Longao said coldly, Situ Ran, I think you will be staying here forever today. Situ Ran and the others weren't fools, so of course they knew what the other party meant. Situ Ran snorted and said, Longao, don't think that you are invincible. I can tell you clearly that as long as I send the news back, do you think you will leave Sin City? You won't have the chance. With just you? Situ Ren gave a signal with his eyes, and the 3 great senior Nothingness Realm officers rushed towards Longao, while Situ Ren turned and left. As long as he could leave smoothly, he would be able to find reinforcements. At that time, Longao would definitely die. But would Longao agree? Longao punched out with both of his fists, and then a tiger roar sounded. Before anyone could react, a big black tiger had already rushed towards Situ Ran, and it was extremely fast. Everyone was shocked. Situ Ran didn't know why a spiritual beast suddenly shot out from Longao's body, and it was a great senior Nothingness Realm spiritual beast. When Situ Ran saw the appearance of the spiritual beast, he didn't even have time to scream before Long Ming pounced on him. The tiger roar sounded again, and Long Ming didn't give the other party the slightest chance and directly bit down. 1 against 3. With Longao's current strength, even 1 against 3 wouldn't be a problem. In just a few minutes, the 5 great senior Nothingness Realm officers were all killed, and this result completely scared Wenlan. Brother Long, are you really a great senior? Since things had already come to this point, Longao didn't hide anything and said, Yes, Wenlan, I'll say it again. If you're willing to follow me, I'll do my best to ensure your safety. If you're not willing, I won't force you. However, I can guarantee that it won't be long before Sin City is in complete chaos. Looking at Longao, who was about to turn and leave, Wenlan suddenly shouted, Wait, let me think about it. Longao smiled helplessly. If Wenlan hadn't helped him before, he wouldn't have said so much nonsense. There was no need to convince a person who doubted him. Longao had already decided that he wouldn't say another word as long as Lan didn't make up her mind in 5 minutes. Time ticked by, and soon, 5 minutes had passed. Longao knew that Lan didn't believe him in the end. Since that was the case, there was no need for him to say anything more. Lan, you and I are friends. If there's anything in the future, you can look for me. I won't leave Sin City in a short period of time. Goodbye. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Lan wanted to stop him several times, but in the end, she held back. Chapter 389. After successfully killing Situ Ren and the 5 great revered martial artists, Longao finally experienced the strength of a great revered martial artist. Longao was fully confident that as long as he didn't meet a world king or world emperor martial artist, he would be invincible. In other words, no matter which great revered martial artist he met, he would be able to easily kill them. If he used the God Sealing Bead or Soul Attack, the power would be even more terrifying. City management. In Sin City, besides the 5 great sovereigns, the most powerful people were the city management. According to Lan, although the 5 great sovereigns were the overlords of Sin City, they didn't manage anything. Thus, the city management had the most power. Because of this, Longao thought about it, and finally decided to start with the city enforcement officers. Wanting to know the situation in Sin City was simply too easy. As long as you were willing to spend beast cores, there was nothing you couldn't do. Thus, after Longao spent 1,000 beast cores, he was able to understand the situation in Sin City. In Sin City, there was a place called the City Management Camp. There were around 100 people in there, and this was the so-called 100 City Management. What sort of concept was this? 100 City Management was 100 great revered martial artists. From this, it could be seen just how terrifying the strength of Sin City was. This didn't even include the 5 great sovereigns. It was because of this that Longao was impatient to obtain the strength of Sin City. He was fully confident that once he subdued the entire city, his sect would be able to borrow the strength of Sin City and completely suppress the 4 great influences. Opportunity. For him, Sin City was an opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. City Management Camp. Longao didn't rush there. This was because he knew that the city management camp was controlled by the 5 great sovereigns. Once his whereabouts were revealed, it would be difficult for him to take even a single step in the future. Within the Dragon Seal space. Master, the greatest difference between a great revered martial artist and a world king martial artist is that a world king martial artist can completely fuse with their golden core and form their own domain. It can be said that within your own domain, you are invincible. Lin Ming nodded. He had personally witnessed the power of a world king's domain in the 9 nether space. If it weren't for the world's aura suppressing the power of the domain, he would have already died. Longfu, is there any way for me to quickly reach the World King realm? Longao was well aware that if he wanted to enter Sin City, a great battle was inevitable. But his current strength was far from enough. Only if he could break into the World King realm would he have the strength to enter Sin City. With no other choice, Longao could only rely on Long Fu's strength. Who knew how long it would take for a mid-level Great Venerate to break through under normal circumstances, but with Long Fu's help, the situation would become much easier. But this time, Long Fu shook his head. As long as I have enough strength, I am confident that I can help you break through to the peak Great Venerable realm in a short period of time. But if you want to reach the World King realm, that will depend on yourself. Look at himself? What did that mean? Longao eagerly asked. Long Fu, can I say that as long as I have enough strength, I can easily break through to the World King realm from the Great Venerable realm? Longao could be said to have a love-hate relationship with his Saint Desolate body. After all, the Saint Desolate body was far too gluttonous. Otherwise, how could the Qilin Great Emperor's soul have only allowed him to break through to the mid-level Great Venerable realm? Master, a World King martial artist must fuse their golden core with their body and then transform it into the power of a domain. This is something that you must personally experience and comprehend. Outsiders cannot help you. Thus, no matter how great your strength is, You will have to rely on yourself in the end. The Saint Desolate body was no longer effective at this time. As if he could see the depression in his master's heart, Long Fu said, "The Saint Desolate body can allow master to cultivate without any bottlenecks, but you will still have to personally comprehend the necessary things. Otherwise, even if you can break through to the World King realm, your strength will still be far inferior to other World Kings." Long Ao nodded. How could he not know what Long Fu was talking about? Thus, he didn't continue to dwell on this issue. As for the mid-level Great Venerable Realm, the most pressing matter right now was to see how he could reach the peak Great Venerable Realm and then comprehend the power of a domain and break through to the World King realm. Although the mid-level Great Venerable Realm seemed simple to break through to the peak Great Venerable Realm, the truth was that it was incomparably difficult. Long Ao had already given the souls of the 6 Great Venerables to Long Fu to refine. After all, he had 6 Great Venerable soul slaves by his side, and they also had undying bodies. This could be considered a helper. The sudden disappearance of Yuan Hui and Situ Rin's group of 6 might not have been much in Sin City, but the city enforcement camp was thrown into an uproar. After all, it was impossible for 6 great masters to disappear for no reason. It was because of this that the city enforcement camp immediately sent people to search for the whereabouts of the 6 people. But in the end, no matter how they searched, they couldn't find them. From this point on, the city enforcement camp could almost conclude that the 6 people had perished. Did something happen to the 6 city enforcement camp officers in Sin City? No one was willing to believe this. This was because in Sin City, who dared to provoke the city enforcement camp officers? That was no different from seeking death. But one could never be too afraid of anything. After all, those that dared to enter Sin City were all extremely courageous individuals. Thus, the city enforcement camp immediately launched an investigation, carefully and meticulously trying to find out just what had happened. It had to be said that the city enforcement camp attached great importance to the disappearance of the 6 people. In the end, even Long Ao was able to find out. From this, one could imagine just how great the city enforcement camp's efforts were. Long Ao and Situ Ren had a quarrel at the city gates. If this were a normal situation, no one would ask about it. But now, the problem was different. The 6 people had vanished for no reason at all, and the city enforcement camp certainly wouldn't let go of any clues. Outside the mansion, 20 city enforcement camp officers arrived. As they looked at the mansion in front of them, all of them were curious. This was because everyone knew that this mansion belonged to Yuan Hui. If that was the case, then why would it be sold to someone else? Moreover, after the mansion was sold, Yuan Hui had vanished without a trace. This seemed too much of a coincidence. "You are Long Ao?" Looking at the young man who walked out of the mansion, especially the young man's long blood-red hair, he was even more eye-catching. Long Ao wasn't surprised at all. He nodded and said, "That's right. I am Long Ao." Sky Sovereign? Originally, they thought that Long Ao was the murderer. But after everyone sensed that Long Ao was only a Sky Sovereign, everyone knew that the 6 people weren't killed by the person in front of them. However, they didn't leave. Even if the 6 people weren't killed by the person in front of them, the problem of their residence still hadn't been solved. Chapter 390. Long Ao, let me ask you, how did you get this house? Long Ao obviously knew the meaning of the 20 people's one. However, he looked extremely calm. "I bought it from the old drunkard for 35,005 beast dawn." Long Ao didn't hide this. After all, the city of Sin had a criminal record, so it was impossible to lie. It would save him a lot of trouble if they found out, so he might as well tell the truth. 35,000 beast dawn? Of course, no one believed it. The houses here didn't have a few 100,000 beast dawn, so how could one buy a house here? Moreover, this was Yu Wenhui's house. The old drunkard didn't have the authority to sell the house. What exactly happened? Although they didn't know what happened, the 20 people had a feeling that Yu Wenhui's death was related to this person in front of them. "Long Ao, now that our companion is missing, you're the most suspicious. It's reasonable, so you have to come with us. Please." Their tones sounded very polite, But the powerful aura emitted by the 20 people was very clear. There was no doubt about it. Longao smiled. He already knew the city of Sin very well. Bully people with power. Bully people with power. Longao didn't have a good impression of the city of Sin, but he knew that it wasn't their fault. After all, the 5 sovereigns hadn't appeared for so many years. No one knew if they were dead or alive. The boss wasn't here, so of course the second boss would run amok. I'm not free. Longao obviously wouldn't go. He wasn't a fool. He knew very well that if he went this time, he wouldn't be able to return. After all, Yuwenwei was dead and he was living in his house. When the time came, he believed that the city of Sin would kill him. Not free. Hearing the other party say that he wasn't free, everyone was stunned. Then, the 20 city of Sin laughed crazily, as if they had heard the funniest thing in the world. In the city of Sin, who dared to go against the city of Sin? Moreover, it was 20 city of Sin. Kid, are you courting death? The other party was only an Empyrean martial artist. It was precisely because of this that everyone could not figure out just what gave this person such great courage to publicly refuse. In the city of Sin, other people might not dare to fight, but only the city enforcement officers had the right to do so. In other words, even if the city enforcement officers killed someone, it was normal. Longao squinted at the crowd and did not say anything. Brat, if you don't come with us, we have the right to kill you. A dog relying on its master's power to bully others. What did you just say? They didn't expect that the other party would dare to insult them. They seemed to be very interested. The 20 city enforcement officers didn't make a move immediately. After all, this was the city of Sin and the other party wouldn't be able to escape. Longao's intention was simple. He wanted to use the town security to lure the 5 great sovereigns out. According to Longao's original plan, he wanted to deal with the city enforcement officers and then slowly search for the 5 great sovereigns. However, after thinking about it, Longao realized that doing so would waste too much time. If the 4 great sovereigns weren't around, Longao could take his time. However, the problem now was that the 4 great sovereigns were waiting to strike. No one knew when the 4 great sovereigns would attack the sect and family clans. Once it started, he would be trapped in the city of Sin and would be in big trouble. Longao was almost certain that the 4 great sovereigns would definitely have illusionary divine martial artists. If the 4 great sovereigns sent out illusionary divine martial artists, how would the sect defend against them? Just the 2 dragon wolves? It was precisely because of this that Longao couldn't wait. Even if he wasn't strong enough to fight against the 5 great sovereigns, he could still set up arrays. After inheriting his master's array skills, Longao was confident that he could use arrays to deal with the 5 great sovereigns. If he could subdue the 5 great sovereigns and the entire city of Sin, it would be beneficial to the development of the sect. Longao, damn you. If you want to fight, then fight. If not, scram. Why are you dawdling like a woman? Longao's words were arrogant. He didn't even put the 20 people in his eyes. If the rest of the people in the city of Sin were here and saw this, what would they think? There was someone in the city of Sin who dared to provoke the city enforcement officers? Furthermore, it was 1 against 20. What kind of concept was this? If Longao was a great honored martial artist or a world king martial artist, he would at least have the qualifications to be arrogant. However, the problem now was that Longao wasn't a great honored martial artist or a world king martial artist. He was just a small, heavenly honored martial artist. Not to mention the 20 people attacking at the same time. Any city enforcement officer could easily deal with Longao. It was precisely because of this that the 20 city enforcement officers didn't put Longao in their eyes. They smiled at him, and the meaning in their eyes was clear. 20 idiots. Longao, I now officially announce that you have violated the rules of the city of Sin. We will kill you without mercy. As they spoke, 2 figures shot out from the 20 people. The 2 great honored martial artists were vicious and ruthless. They were clearly prepared to kill Longao and didn't hold back at all. But the 2 of them left quickly and returned even faster. They didn't even see how Longao had attacked before they were ruthlessly smashed back. The two great honored martial artists were shocked to the extreme, their faces filled with disbelief. So you are a great honored martial artist. There was an essential difference between a great honored martial artist and an Empyrean martial artist. The complexions of the city enforcement officers were ugly. This was because no one had guessed that this person was a great honored martial artist and not an Empyrean. So what if you are a great honored martial artist? The matter had already reached this point. The 20 great honored martial artists were very clear that no matter what happened, this person in front of them had to die. Otherwise, they would lose face. The two great honored martial artists were defeated in one move. No one knew what shame was. Gradually, the surroundings were filled with people. After all, 20 great honored martial artists were acting together. This kind of grand occasion was very rare. Everyone wanted to see who was able to attract 20 city enforcement officers. A stranger. Looking at Longao, everyone was guessing his origin and identity. After all, everyone knew what the city enforcement officers represented in the city of Sin. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to offend the city enforcement officers. But there were exceptions to everything. Just as everyone was guessing, the two defeated great honored martial artists and two other great honored martial artists quickly left. For great honored martial artists were ganged up on Longao. In the eyes of others, it could be said that he despised these so-called city enforcement officers. Bullying with numbers. Everyone was worried for Longao. After all, 20 great honored martial artists weren't a joke. Could Longao withstand them? 1 against 10, no one was optimistic about Longao's chances. Chapter 391. 1 against 4, Longao wasn't afraid. His blood-red hair danced in the wind as he smashed his arms out. Did he really fight back? Back then, the 5 great sovereigns had set the rules in Sin City. No matter what, no one was allowed to fight within Sin City, let alone kill. Moreover, the city enforcement officers were the trusted aides of the sovereigns. They were in charge of keeping Sin City in check. Normally, the city enforcement officers would enforce the law. Anyone who dared to be presumptuous was courting death. Because of this, no one expected this young man to be so arrogant. He actually attacked and fought with the 4 city enforcement officers. He completely disregarded the rules of Sin City. Longao wanted to lure the 5 great sovereigns out. Now was the perfect opportunity. The Divine Dragon Arm and Hell Tiger Arm smashed out. At this moment, Longao took out the God-Sealing Pearl and God-Punishing Mirror. 2 strange forces spread out and enveloped the 4 of them. Their bodies were locked? The flow of time around them was changed? What was going on? The 4 of them were shocked to the extreme. They didn't know how the other party did it. He was able to lock on and change the flow of time. Just as the 4 of them were locked on, Longao arrived in front of them in the blink of an eye. The corners of Longao's mouth curled up into a sneer. It was as if he was passing judgment as he coldly said, "I now pronounce you dead." Longao with just you? Ignoring the taunts of the 4, Longao punched out as fast as lightning. He was still so arrogant even in the face of death. "Longao, how dare you?" With a sneer, Longao simply ignored the numerous city enforcement officers who were already flying towards him. Longao's fists still fiercely smashed out. 1 punch for 1. For punches accurately smashed onto the heads of the 4 city enforcement officers. Then, he quickly retreated. Just as the 4 of them were smashed, Longao had already sent their souls into the Dragon Seal space. When the crowd saw the 4 corpses on the ground, their faces turned gloomy. Killing 4 sovereigns in one move, what did that mean? At this moment, everyone finally knew the real reason why Longao was so fearless. Longao, do you think you can leave Sin City? Why not? Overbearing and arrogant. This was the feeling that Longao gave everyone. If it was in the past, everyone would have deeply despised Longao's arrogance and overbearingness. But now, he had single-handedly killed 4 great seniors with one move. What kind of concept was this? Who would dare to continue mocking and despising him? Not to mention the onlookers, even the remaining 16 city enforcement officers did not dare to continue looking down on him. Their faces were solemn. Until now, the identity of this person was still a mystery. Could it be that this person had some backing? Longao, who are you? Who I am is none of your business. Didn't you want to take me away just now? Again, I won't leave, and I won't go with you. If you're convinced, then scram. If you're not convinced, then come at me again. This young master hasn't killed anyone in a long time. If you're convinced, then scram. If you're not convinced, then come again. This young master's fists haven't killed anyone in a long time. Longao's words spread in all directions. Those who heard it were all exhilarated. The people in Sin City were bullied by the city enforcement officers every day, but they did not dare to speak up. Now that Longao had helped them vent their anger, how could they not be happy? But because of the city enforcement officers' overbearingness, no one dared to applaud. But in their hearts, they gave Longao a thumbs up. Everyone's face was gloomy to the extreme, and it was as ugly as it could get. For so many years, no one had ever dared to go against Sin City, let alone openly challenge the authority of the city enforcement officers. According to the rules in the past, once someone disobeyed an order, the city enforcement officers would immediately kill them without mercy. But Longao's strength was too strong. He fought against 4 great seniors and defeated 4 of them. Among the 16 city enforcement officers, who could be his opponent? Why don't you guys dare to speak up? Longao, you killed the city enforcement officers in public. Aren't you afraid of the 5 emperors? The remaining 16 city enforcement officers obviously did not dare to continue. They could only use the 5 emperors to suppress Longao. But would Longao be afraid? Longao's purpose was to lure the 5 emperors out. Now that the city enforcement officers were behaving like this, it was exactly what he wanted. He sneered and said, I said that you guys are dogs that bully others because of your master's power. You guys resisted a little. Let's see, if you're not dogs, then what are you? Pfft. It was unknown who laughed out loud, but the 16 senior city enforcers were completely embarrassed. Longao, you. No matter how arrogant and overbearing you guys were in Sin City in the past, I want to tell you now that you don't even have the right to call me that in front of me. If you're convinced, then get lost. Don't embarrass yourself here. Just looking at you guys annoys me. Longao did not give them any face. When had the city enforcement officers, who were usually high and mighty, ever been humiliated like this? 6 of the city enforcement officers could not bear it anymore. They roared and shot towards Longao. A person's potential was huge, especially when they were angry. The 6 city enforcement officers working together were 20% stronger than usual. What kind of concept was this? Just now, it was 1 against 4. Now, it was 1 against 6. With the addition of 2 city enforcement officers, the concept was completely different. Everyone was worried for Longao, but at the same time, they were looking forward to Longao's counterattack. They wanted to see if he could kill 4 city enforcement officers with a single punch like just now. Longao did not move. He did not put the 6 city enforcement officers in his eyes. He did not even plan to use the God-sealing pearl and God-punishing mirror. He just stood there quietly and coldly looked at the 6 city enforcement officers who were shooting towards him. Longao is still not moving? Even if you are strong, you can't just stand there and be so arrogant. After all, both sides are great venerables. Everyone was puzzled. They did not know what Longao was trying to do. Could it be that he wanted to commit suicide? When the 6 city enforcement officers arrived in front of Longao, Longao finally moved. However, he did not take the initiative to attack. Instead, he retreated. Soul attack. The most direct and most terrifying attack. A blood-curdling scream was heard. Before anyone could figure out what was going on, another blood-curdling scream was heard. Plop, plop. The bodies of the 2 town security officers had already collapsed to the ground. He had killed 2 city enforcement officers without even making a move? What kind of concept was this? The remaining 4 city enforcement officers did not know what had happened. However, the situation had already reached this point. They could not retreat. They roared angrily. Then, the 4 city enforcement officers continued to shoot. Just as Longao was about to start a massacre, a terrifying domain power descended and enveloped everyone. Come back. Chapter 392. Domain Power? Feeling this terrifying domain power, Longao already knew who it was. A World King martial artist. Longao didn't release the aura of heaven and earth because he could clearly feel that the other party didn't have any killing intent towards him. Otherwise, when the domain power enveloped him, Longao would have already released the aura of heaven and earth to resist. At this time, an old man appeared not far away. He was about 60 years old. "Your Excellency is too ruthless. You killed 6 city enforcement officers in a row." The old man's killing intent was faintly discernible. Although his voice was calm, it was filled with unparalleled anger. However, Longao ignored him and coldly snorted. "What a joke. The city enforcement officers wanted to capture me. I refused to accept it and wanted to kill me. Am I supposed to stand still and wait for them to kill me?" The old man's name was Du Guanlin. He was a subordinate of the Eastern Sovereign and was also one of the people in charge of the city enforcement camp. Looking at the many city enforcement officers around him, a great venerable city enforcement officer explained what had happened in a low voice. After listening, Du Guanlin nodded. He looked at the young man in front of him and said, "The matter is very clear. Yu Wenwei was killed by you. I am very puzzled. With your strength, if you want a house, you can do it openly. Why do you have to be so sneaky? If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. It's useless to say more. If you want to fight, let's fight. Cough, 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 cough. If you want to fight, let's fight." Hearing Longao's bold words, everyone was dumbfounded. They didn't know if there was something wrong with this person's brain. As everyone knew, the gap between Great Venerable Void and the Void World King was very large. Just the domain power of a World King was something that Great Venerable Void couldn't resist. Even if Longao could instantly kill a martial artist of the same level, could he jump realms and kill a World King? It was easy for the Void World King to kill Great Venerable Void, but on the other hand, it was almost impossible for Great Venerable Void to kill the Void World King. Many people wanted to know what gave Longao so much confidence that he dared to challenge the Void World King. Du Guanlin did not seem to have expected this. He was not angry and instead said with interest, "I believe you know the difference between the Void Supreme Sovereign and the Void World King better than I do. Are you confident that you can defeat me?" Not to mention Du Guanlin, even other people wouldn't believe it. The power that the Void World King possessed was the power of a domain. There was a saying that within a domain, the World King was the ruler. "Whether I have confidence or not is my business. I can see that you are all jackals of the same tribe. It's useless for me to say more. If you want to fight, then fight. I'll accompany you anytime. If you don't want to fight, then scram." The more confident Longao appeared, the more fearful Du Guanlin became. Could it be that this kid really had something to rely on? It was better to be safe than sorry. As the saying goes, it is better to be safe than sorry. Du Guanlin knew clearly in his heart that most people wouldn't dare to be impudent when they entered the city of sin. But what about the other party? Not only did the other party not place the city management in his eyes, but he also didn't place Du Guanlin in his eyes. Was there something strange about this matter? Seeing Du Guanlin not speak, everyone was surprised. They looked at the two people who were facing off against each other. No one dared to imagine that Longao had really managed to intimidate Du Guanlin. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. This is a World King. This is a famous World King martial artist. It's really better to see in person than to hear from others. Admirable, admirable. After being humiliated by Longao, Du Guanlin's complexion was ugly to the extreme. As one of the most powerful existences in the city of sin, when had he ever been humiliated like this before? Longao's actions were the same as tearing the earth above the lion's head. It was like pulling a tooth out of a tiger's mouth. "Longao, you are truly arrogant." "So what?" Du Guanlin was left speechless. He had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen such an arrogant person. To be so arrogant in front of a World King, if this were any other time, he would have already been obliterated. But now, Du Guanlin was clearly afraid. "Brother Du, could it be that you were really intimidated by him?" At this time, a large fellow walked over from not too far away. This large fellow didn't wear a shirt, and he looked like a cheetah. This large fellow's name was Luobing, and he was also a world king. In the blink of an eye, Du Guanlin's complexion was ugly. After all, he had been intimidated by a little great sovereign. If this matter were to spread out, where would his face go? Brother Du, you are far too careful. Trash will always be trash. Who is Trash talking about? Trash is talking about you. Just as Luobing finished speaking, he discovered that he had been fooled. His complexion instantly turned angry, and he released a terrifying domain aura that ruthlessly suppressed Lin Ming. The power of a domain was the trump card of a world king martial artist, and also their greatest reliance. But Longao simply ignored the power of this domain. He stood where he was as if nothing had happened, coldly looking at them. What was this situation? Just what was happening? Everyone was completely bewildered. They didn't know why Longao could ignore the power of a world king's domain. It turned out that Longao hadn't released his world aura at all. Rather, he had turned it into an energy shield that covered his body. Like this, even if a world king martial artist released their domain, he would still be able to ignore it. Very few people knew of Longao's world aura. It was because of this that everyone was frightened. They had no idea just how Longao had accomplished this. Du Guanlin and Luobing were both shocked. They glanced at each other, both able to see the deep fear in each other's eyes. They didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. Du Guanlin also released his world aura. Two world king martial artists, two terrifying world auras ruthlessly suppressed Longao. But what was the result? Longao fiercely swallowed his saliva. The onlookers also fiercely swallowed their own saliva, stupefied as they stared at him. This was simply too shocking. This was because no one dared to imagine that in this world, great sovereign nothingness was actually able to ignore the domain aura suppression of two world kings. Just what sort of concept was this? Is this all you've got? Put in more effort. I'm still waiting here. Longao's humiliation was excessive to the extreme. But in the eyes of everyone present, the winner was king and the loser was a bandit. Since you were the loser, you had to obediently be humiliated. This was especially true in Sin City. Since you've already done your best, why don't you feel my aura? What did he mean? Before the two of them could respond, an unparalleled aura erupted from Longao's body. This aura was the world aura. World aura? Nirvanic rebirth? As they felt the aura suppression released by the other party, whether it was Du Guanlin or Luobing, both of them cried out in alarm, as if they had seen a ghost. No one around them knew what was happening. Chapter 393. The Aura of the World. Du Guanlin and Luobing certainly knew what this aura of the world meant. Longao, have you already broken through to Nirvana Rebirth? Just as Du Guanlin said this, he felt that something was wrong. If this person had really broken through to Nirvana Rebirth, would he have given them a chance? If this person hadn't undergone Nirvana Rebirth, how could he release the aura of the world? How did the two of you feel? At this moment, Du Guanlin and Luobing's complexions were gloomy to the extreme. Luobing seemed to think of something and ruthlessly said, "If I'm not wrong, then you should be the reincarnation of some super powerhouse. Am I right? Reincarnation? When had he become the reincarnation of some super powerhouse?" Longao thought this was a bit funny, but he didn't say anything. It was because of this that the more he acted like this, the more frightened the two of them became. After all, the more mysterious something was, the more they feared it. Longao, just who are you? I want to see the 5 great sovereigns. What did you say? They didn't seem to be able to react in time. After all, the 5 great sovereigns were the true overlords of the city of Sin. They were rarely seen. If everyone could see them whenever they wanted to, wouldn't the 5 great sovereigns be exhausted to death? If Longao dared to say such words a moment ago, he would have been ridiculed and despised. But now, Longao had not only instantly killed a great sovereign but also suppressed 2 world king martial artists. Everyone was well aware that Longao had the qualifications to see the 5 great sovereigns. But having the qualifications was one thing, and whether or not he could see them was another. Longao, Don't think that just because you have the aura of the world that you are invincible beneath the heavens. I can clearly tell you that you do not have the qualifications to see the five great sovereigns. Is that so? Longao faintly smiled. He looked at the two of them and suddenly said, "If I were to kill the two of you, I wonder if the five great sovereigns would appear with just you?" Hearing this, Du Guanlin and Luo Bing crazily laughed, as if they had heard the funniest joke in the world. What shameless boasting! You're courting death. Longao didn't speak any more nonsense. This was because he was well aware that if he didn't kill one or two world kings, then the five sovereigns simply wouldn't appear. Since that was the case, they couldn't blame him for being ruthless. He slowly walked towards the two world king martial artists. The onlookers all sucked in a breath of cold air because no one had imagined that Longao would take the initiative to attack. What kind of concept was this? To fight one against two, and also two world king martial artists at that. In a normal situation, this great sovereign void would have died without a grave. But Longao's situation was a bit special. Not only could he instantly kill a great sovereign martial artist, but he could also release the aura of the world. Du Guanlin and Luo Bing glanced at each other. If they were to join forces, even if they could kill the other party, they believed that they would be looked down upon and despised by everyone. At that time, where would they put their face? What if they didn't join forces? The more confident Longao appeared, the less confident the two of them were. If they were unlucky and the other party was really the reincarnation of an expert, then their lives would be in danger. At that time, even their reputation would be a small problem. On one side was face and on the other was life. How would they choose? To a powerhouse, face was more important than life. But to those who lived in Sin City, life was more important than face. It was because of this that Du Guanlin and Luo Bing chose to join forces and attack together. Du Guanlin and Luo Bing had joined forces? Seeing two world king martial artists join forces, everyone sighed and glared at them with disdain. But Du Guanlin and Luo Bing simply ignored all the jeers and contempt. This was because in their opinion, their opponent must have many secrets on him. Whether or not he had the aura of the world, whether or not he was the reincarnation of a powerhouse, as long as they could kill him, then they might be able to obtain some unexpected harvests. And most importantly, this person was too arrogant and unscrupulous. Once this matter spread to the ears of the five great sovereigns, the consequences would be unimaginable. Once the five great sovereigns blamed them, they would have to bear the consequences. It was because of this that the two of them decided to join forces. No matter what happened, they had to kill the other party. In the blink of an eye, the three of them were already engaged in a fierce battle. Longao didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. No matter how it was said, these two were still world king martial artists. Beneath their dual domains, the slightest bit of carelessness would cause them to fall into eternal damnation. To an ordinary great sovereign martial artist, the power of a domain might be a lethal weapon. But to Longao, with the suppression of the aura of the world, the power of a domain was nothing but bullshit. However, a world king was still a world king. The disparity in boundary was something that was difficult to make up for. Longao understood this truth, and so did the two of them. It was because of this that Longao attacked again and again, not giving the two any chance to catch their breath. His fists were like a raging storm, his fist strength like a bolt of lightning. Ha ha ha, Longao, I thought you were strong, but it seems that you are nothing more than a paper tiger. As the battle continued to escalate, the two of them finally realized that Longao's true strength was only that of a great sovereign martial artist. They didn't know what sort of dog's hit luck he had stumbled upon to possess the aura of the world. Du Guanlin and Luo Bing weren't idiots. They were well aware that with their opponent's aura of the world, the power of their domains would be useless. Since that was the case, why waste their strength in vain? The two of them didn't continue to rely on the aura of their domains. Instead, they directly released the power of their domains. In an instant, Longao felt as if he had fallen into a quagmire, unable to extricate himself. This was the power of a domain. Longao didn't resist the power of a domain. This was because he knew that while the aura of the world could suppress the aura of a domain, it couldn't suppress the power of a domain. A world king was still a world king. Just their domain alone was enough to show disdain for a great sovereign martial artist. Longao's heart sank. This was the first time that he had truly fought a world king. Now, he finally understood just how terrifying a world king was. But would Longao choose to give up now? The blood-drinking 8 styles. The first style was Yellow Spring's 9 strikes. The second style was Heart-devouring ice. The third style was Raging Flame Sea. The fourth style was World-extinguishing saber light. The fifth style was Myriad Bones devouring soul. The sixth style was Meteor explosion. According to Longao's strength, unless his cultivation broke through to the World King realm, it was impossible for him to use the 7th style. But now that things had come to this point, Longao was well aware that he had no other choice. The God-slaying mirror, the God-sealing bead, and even the soul attack, Longao didn't use any of them. This was because he wanted to kill his opponent in a single strike and not give them any chance to retaliate. Blood-drinking 8 styles. The 7th style, Tear Heaven and Rend Earth. After forcefully using the 7th style, Tear Heaven and Rend Earth, all of the strength within Longao's body was sucked out and gathered into his hands. At this time, Longao discovered that he had formed some sort of connection with blood-drinking Wild Saber. It was a marvelous feeling. Chapter 394. Blood-drinking's 7th move, Tear the Heavens and Rend the Earth. Longao resisted the waves of weakness that spread through his body. He grasped blood-drinking Wild Saber with both hands and directly struggled against the suppression of the 2 domains. Did he break free? Du Guanlin and Luobing's complexions changed, as if they had expected something. The 2 World King martial artists turned around and prepared to flee. As for everyone else, they were dumbfounded as they watched what was happening in front of them. Was this really a great sovereign martial artist? A heaven-shaking saber strike, unparalleled. At this moment, Longao stood in the void, his blood-red hair wildly dancing in the wind. His black robes fluttered in the wind and his face was cold and solemn. His body emitted a powerful killing intent that billowed outwards like a surging river. A death god descends, a heaven-shaking saber strike. Longao roared out, his voice like billowing thunder, spreading through the entire city of Sin. At this moment, everyone in the city of Sin looked towards the sky. Even if they couldn't see, they still looked towards the direction of the cry. Countless people didn't know what was happening. Blood-drinking's 7th move, Tear the Heavens and Rend the Earth. The voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. Longao's blood-drinking Wild Saber had already slashed down. A heaven-shaking saber light cut through the air like a meteor, not giving anyone a chance to react. Longao, you. The saber light was too fast and carried with it the sound of rolling thunder. The world changed color, and then an unbelievable scene occurred. Where the saber light passed, the surrounding space was forcibly torn apart. Black energy roared within. There was no need to test it. Just looking at it made one's scalp tingle, as if they were being swallowed up. It was too shocking. Space was torn apart by the saber light. The space crack roared, not caring about anything else. It began to swallow up the surrounding great sovereigns, one after another. In front of the space crack, everyone was an insignificant existence. Du Guanlin and Luobing were panic-stricken to the extreme, especially as they saw the massive black hole in front of them. The countless black cracks crazily swallowed up the great sovereigns. Even now, Du Guanlin and Luobing couldn't figure out how Longao could tear apart space. Was this person really the reincarnation of a powerhouse? Du Guanlin and Luobing did not dare to continue clashing head-on. What face? Surviving was the best thing they could do. However, the saber light had already slashed down. Without giving the 2 of them any chance to react, the space directly swallowed the 2 of them. Even their souls could not escape. After killing 2 world kings and over a dozen great sovereigns, Longao suppressed the weakness in his body, turned around, and quickly left. In the blink of an eye, he had vanished without a trace. All the onlookers were still in shock. It was hard for them to imagine what had just happened. Space was torn apart? The might of Longao's saber instantly spread throughout Sin City. However, 88% of the people didn't believe it. What kind of joke was this? How could a little grand venerate break open a spatial crack? Longao didn't continue to stay in the courtyard. This was because he had killed 2 world kings and 20 great sovereigns in broad daylight. If the 5 great sovereigns were to learn of this, it was easy to imagine what the result would be. It was because of this that Longao found a secluded place and began to recuperate. Blood drinking 8 styles. The first style was Yellow Spring's 9 strikes. The second style was Frozen Heart Devouring. The third style was Raging Flame Sea. The fourth style was World Extinguishing Saber Light. The fifth style was Myriad Bones Devouring Soul. The sixth style was Meteor Explosion. The seventh style was Tear Heaven and Rend the Earth. The first 6 styles weren't so powerful, and it was impossible for them to be so terrifying as to instantly drain him of all his strength. Even with his current strength, he still couldn't use the 7th style, Tear Heaven and Rend the Earth. It was hard to imagine what would happen if his cultivation broke through to the World King realm. At that time, just what would happen if he used the 7th style, Tear Heaven and Rend the Earth? Longao was looking forward to it. Void World King Boundary. Within the Dragon Seal space. Master, the last 2 styles of your blood-drinking 8 styles are very powerful and can be constantly upgraded. In the end, the most powerful aspects of the blood-drinking 8 styles are the last 2 styles. Longao nodded. He had already personally experienced the 7th style of the blood-drinking 8 styles. To be able to kill 2 world kings with a single saber strike, one could imagine just how terrifying it was. Long Fu, according to your calculations, how long can the blood-drinking 8 styles be maintained for? There is no limit. Master, you must properly cultivate the last 2 styles of the blood-drinking 8 styles. Once you reach the peak, you will be able to tear apart the heavens and earth and break apart the void. Tear apart the heavens and earth and break apart the void. Longao never imagined that the last 2 styles of the blood-drinking 8 styles would be so terrifying. Master, your top priority right now is to stabilize your injuries as soon as possible and break through to the World King realm. Once you form your own domain, I will help you form the Desolate Domain. What kind of domain is that? Master, it's not that I want to boast, but once you form the so-called Desolate Domain, you will be an invincible existence amongst all world kings. This is because the Desolate Domain stands above all other domains. F*CK. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Hearing Long Fu say this, Longao was a bit impatient. Once the Desolate Domain was combined with his own desolate tyrant body, there was no need for Long Fu to say anything else. Longao was fully confident that he would be able to dominate all world kings. Long Fu, if I need to rely on myself to break through to the World King realm, then I will need to rely on you to reach the peak of the great exalted realm. Master, this is very difficult, very difficult. As your boundary continues to rise, the strength you will need will also become greater and greater. If Master wants to reach the peak of the great exalted realm as quickly as possible, you will need to kill 3 world kings or a world sovereign martial artist and refine their souls. 3 world kings? A world sovereign? Longao sighed inwardly. If he had been able to trap the souls of 2 world kings into the Dragon Seal space, then he would have only been 1 world king away from breaking through to the peak of the World King realm. But this wasn't the case. Longao was well aware that although the 7th style of the blood-drinking 8 styles, tearing the heavens and splitting the earth, was incomparably powerful, he wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice, unless his cultivation could break through to the Void World King realm. Longao was even more aware that unless he broke through to the World King realm, it would be extremely difficult to enter Sin City and subdue the 5 sovereigns. With the help of the blood-drinking 8 styles, he had successfully killed 2 world kings. But could he kill a world sovereign? Without a doubt, even with the help of the blood-drinking 8 styles, it was impossible to kill a world sovereign martial artist. Thinking of this, Longao's complexion became increasingly dignified. After leaving the Dragon Seal space, Longao continued to recuperate. Although that saber strike had startled the heavens and made ghosts and gods weep, It had consumed far too much energy. It would be impossible for him to fully recover in 3 to 5 days. This was also the true reason why Longao wasn't willing to use the seventh style of blood drinking, tearing the heavens and splitting the earth. If the 5 sovereigns had appeared in time, would he have been able to return alive? Chapter 395. The news that Longao had killed 2 world king martial artists and 20 great sovereign martial artists spread throughout Sin City, causing an uproar that lasted for a long time. At the peak of a mountain not far from Sin City, in a pavilion, 4 men and 1 woman. They were the Eastern Emperor Luo Tian, Western Emperor Wu Ming, Southern Emperor Zhou Chun, Northern Emperor Yi Feng, and Central Emperor Nangong Tuesday. Among them, Wu Ming was a woman. No one knew her name or identity. What do you think about Longao? I've already done my research. Longao is a disciple of the Long family from Scarlet Fire Town in Sky Region. I don't know what kind of luck he had, but he rose to power in just a few months. Moreover, he has the aura of heaven and earth. If I'm not wrong, he should be the reincarnation of a powerful expert. The other 4 nodded their heads in agreement with Zhou Chen's words. In other words, the 5 emperors agreed that Longao was the reincarnation of a powerful expert. What should we do? We still don't know what Longao wants to do. Longao's intention is very simple. He wants to find trouble with Sin City. If I'm not wrong, Longao wants to enter Sin City and dominate it. Him. Nangong too snorted. A mere great honorable martial artist wanted to dominate Sin City? What did he have? Brother Nangong, I believe that you should know that Longao can break open space with a single slash. Can we do that? Could he do it? Although Nangong too was confident in his own abilities, he knew his limits. Even an illusionary divine martial artist would not be able to break through space, much less him. Even if I can't do it, it doesn't mean that Longao is stronger than the 5 of us. Are we really going to let him enter Sin City? Sigh, we haven't been able to find the entrance for so many years. Otherwise, even if we give Sin City to Longao, what can we do? Entrance? Hearing Wu Ming's words, the other 4 emperors bitterly smiled. It turned out that there was a massive treasure trove beneath Sin City. It was said that there were peerless weapons and treasures inside. It was because of this that the 5 emperors had been dominating Sin City for so many years. No one was allowed to touch Sin City. For so many years, the 5 emperors had tried all sorts of methods, but were unable to find the entrance. Over time, the 5 emperors even wanted to give up. But in the end, they persevered. Just as Wu Ming had said, if it wasn't for the treasures beneath Sin City, they would have left Sin City long ago. They wouldn't have waited until now. It was precisely because of the treasures beneath Sin City that the 5 sovereigns would never hand over Sin City. If that's the case, what should we do now? Kill. The 5 sovereigns looked at each other, each of them able to see a decision in each other's eyes. They absolutely could not give up Sin City, and the shock that Longao had given them was far too great. With just a mere great elder boundary, he had instantly killed 2 world kings and even broken through space. Once this person was allowed to grow, the consequences would be unimaginable. Sin City. After 4 days of recuperation, Longao had completely recovered. But the battle from 4 days ago was still a hot topic in Sin City. No matter what was said, Longao was someone who could contend with Sin City. Moreover, he had openly and honorably killed 20 city management officers and 2 world kings. It was easy to guess that the 5 emperors wouldn't let this matter go. Longao was looking forward to the 5 emperors. But he also hoped that he could stall for time. Thinking about it, he had indeed been a bit reckless this time. But Longao never imagined that a world king's domain would be so formidable. Just his world aura alone wasn't able to suppress the power of a domain. Longao was well aware that unless his cultivation broke through to the world king realm, it was impossible for him to be a match for the 5 emperors with his current strength. Longao was sure that since he had killed 2 world kings, the 5 emperors wouldn't let this matter go. It would take at least 3 days and at most 7 days. He believed that the 5 emperors would come looking for trouble with him. Could it be that he would have to leave Sin City for now? Longao. Hearing someone call out to him, Longao was curious. He turned around and saw a beautiful woman in front of him. Longao was stunned for a moment before he smiled and said, Sheiji, I didn't think I would run into you here. Sheiji was someone that Big Brother Dugu had taken a liking to. In the future, she would be his sister-in-law. It was because of this that Longao had to be polite. Sheiji smiled and said, Longao, you are truly fierce. I have already heard of your deeds. But let me give you a word of advice. The 5 emperors aren't people that you can provoke. It's best if you leave this place. His mind stirred. Why would Sheiji appear here? Longao didn't know much about Sheiji. He only knew that she was a female bandit who had fallen in love with Big Brother Dugu at first sight. Her strength wasn't too high, but now, Longao couldn't sense her strength at all. He could only describe her as unfathomable. It was because of this that Longao was more vigilant and careful around Sheiji. Although Sheiji and Big Brother Dugu had feelings for each other, they weren't really together. Moreover, Sheiji was obviously hiding something from them. Just this point alone was enough for them to guard against. Longao, I can tell you clearly that the 5 emperors are already paying attention to you. If you don't leave as soon as possible, think about what will happen. No matter what, you are Dugu Bai's brother. I don't wish for anything to happen to you. Sheiji, I only want to ask you one thing. What is your identity? Longao was most concerned about this. Not only did he want to know, but he also wanted to ask on behalf of his brother. He didn't want Big Brother Dugu to be deceived. Longao, I can only tell you that I am your friend. I will walk together with Dugu Bai in the future. However, now is not the time for you to know my identity. When the time comes, I will naturally tell you. Unwilling to say? The more Sheiji acted like this, the more curious Longao was. He waved his hand and said, Since you treat me as a friend, why are you hiding your identity? It seems like you don't really treat me as a friend. If that's the case, my matters have nothing to do with you. Sorry, I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Wait. Longao looked at Sheiji with great interest. He didn't say anything and just waited quietly. Longao, do you really want to know? Nonsense. He was speechless, but Longao still nodded his head. Longao, I want to ask you, why did you come to Sin City this time? Longao was speechless towards Sheiji. He turned around and left. Since she didn't want to say, what was the use of him staying here besides wasting time? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.